What's going on? I'm Tim, and this is James, and we are Tabletop Terrors. Welcome. Why are you laughing at me already?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at something I thought of that I was going to say and not have to. So I make the chat.
Do you smoke in front of my daughter? I'm gonna quit. She'd take care of that for you.
I'm in!
Will you close YouTube?
The new horror movie by Jordan Peele. Dude,
You just got added. You
we
just
just
gave your
got
ad
flagged.
yourself
we just got flagged.
for showing movies. Okay, listen. Oh.
Just.
So what I was going to say is, and this is to nobody in particular.
Bleak.
I popped out the chat like your mama was fat. That's what I did.
Listen, I'll drink to that.
Are you not? No,
A Tabtarian toast.
No.
To the fact-
If you think the Tabtarian toast happens with anything other than an energy drink, you are sorely mistaken.
Really? I can't do a Crystal Pep?
No, especially not.
This is full of water,
can
so
drink
people
it.
think I'm hard. Oh, I don't have an energy drink.
Oh god.
Are you gonna crack it open?
Yeah.
Della Reese. All right.
Is that? It's not Belarus.
Della Reese is a singer.
I thought you were gonna choose.
You don't have your headphones on, no, but it's sizzling
Crackling.
like, yeah, dude, I'm drinking a Sprite
Crackling
commercial.
good. It would be my favorite thing if we weren't actually live right now.
We might not be. I didn't check.
You didn't skip the ad yet.
I didn't skip the ad. All right, so you want to pretend like we have a channel that has people that care?
No.
Don't drink it. We didn't toast.
I'm on the SpongeBob.
I'm gonna do.
This is
Come
something that
on.
would happen on SpongeBob.
And then my lips grow.
That is exactly what I
Yeah,
thought.
I
They
know.
turn into a little straw, and it's like not before the toast.
Believe it or not, we do care that you're watching. This is. You know what? You know what this is?
We were brothers and all that.
No, dude. This is. You know what this is? This is damage reduction. I didn't even think about it. We're done. This is
We're not done. You're
This
done.
is damage reduction. Double damage. I don't know.
critical hit. No, this is like what? Subdual damage, because this isn't all the damage that you'll take.
No, this is us. We are writing a campaign guidebook for our campaign World of Dragongrin. Our whole channel is based on, we believe that anyone can be more creative. And we prove it using tabletop games. And so today, we're going to talk more about the book that we're writing. We're going to kickstart a campaign guide later this year. As always, you can check out our stuff on absolutetabletop.com. I need to start saying that more often because a lot of people that watch this don't know that we write RPG books and that you can buy those RPG books to support the channel. But what do you say we do a little Tabtarian toast with some watermelon rock stars?
Watermelon Rockstar, for sure.
I imagined the evil versions of the California raisins are the watermelon rock stars. They're like, the raisins got
evil
another
versions.
gig. Boo. That's some good claymation. I mean,
Is that a thing? Did you
Yeah.
just make up?
oh, the
I thought-
California raisins is real.
Oh, there are just raisins that come from California that you can buy and eat.
Correct, but they're also an intellectual property
Didn't
of
know that.
musicians,
That was not
and they
something
sing
I
"Heard It
knew.
Through the Grapevine." Oh, we're gonna watch some YouTube videos later. I'm not making this up. It sounds like I am.
It sounds like you are.
Is it because I'm old? I don't know.
If you have to ask that question, are you actually ready now?
Yeah.
Okay. May you mend the first break,
May you kill the first snake.
and may you conquer everything you undertake.
Slancha.
I almost didn't say it. I give
I
a
know.
thumbs up instead.
I started doing Abtabian toasts
Abtabi.
during the Abtab afternoon. I did an Abtabian toast, and I say Slancha va, which
It's
basically
just a
means
word I made up.
kind of. I learned it off of Outlander's Guide to History Channel show. All right. We got plenty of people watching. Thanks for hanging out. We keep this really casual because honestly, man, it's a heavy weight. Writing a book that is this anticipated is a big deal. And I'm worried
What would
we're
you say
gonna
the level of anticipation is? Hotly anticipated.
This is hotly.
That's like that is the only level of anticipation I am aware of.
That's true.
Hotly anticipated.
But it is sideways with hotly contested.
Oh yeah.
Hotly contested, hotly anticipated. So there are a couple of things we're going to be talking about today. Oh, we got some people who are trying to do the toast and they are sad. So you don't have headphones in. I'm trying to make sure we don't bump this table too much because we do that while we're writing. We're like, I caught myself like doing
fake typing on it.
Yeah, and I'm like,
oh god.
And it goes. So if you're listening to this and you've got it all cranked up in your car stereo,
even if we do just
like,
type, even if I just.
That's the word I don't know that sounds good. Sounds.
SMR.
Yep.
ASMR.
SR2 Joker.
Different thing. Why is SR2 Joker a gun or an assassin?
Because
pretty sure it's just a person.
What's an SR2? All right. The bounce rate on this video is going to be higher. You know what though? You true Tab
Higher than the grapevine. Says the Rockstar Watermelon Rockstar.
Which also happens in California.
Are we gonna write a book?
Yeah.
Pull up a doc. We're staring at the trailer for a movie right now.
So what I'm going to tell you is, I had a thought about not having half elves or half orcs in Dragongrin, because I liked the idea of just core races. To me, it felt a little colder, and it felt more. In the instant, I was like, that feels more like Dragongrin. What do you think about that? Because anyone I've mentioned it to has either had a very positive response or a very negative response. Very few neutral responses. Most of them have been yes.
I feel like I'm on an interview show.
No. So show me on the half elf. No.
So
what do you think?
My personal opinion on that is that I think the opposite. I agree that it would feel very cold if the races were all shut off from each other, but I think that it's gonna happen. I think that it.
Getting on that cripple pet game.
I like the idea better that with so many half races, it's easier to hate more people. In my mind, I feel like it would create more tension. Whereas, for me personally, I feel like isolationism would be more popular if their races were just races, especially in the way that we think of them. Like, it's not just elves. There are Talus elves and there are Drivy elves. You know what I mean? I'm like,
wait a minute. You don't think I was suggesting no sub races?
No, but what I'm saying is because in my mind it would just be a lot of different sectors of people, and then I feel like it'd be too easy. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of the tension comes from sort of being able to have not sub races, but half races.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you, what made me think of it truly, and just this entire thing is about categorizing, logging, capturing our creative process as we write a book. I think that's very valuable. I wish there was something like this around when I started writing RPG books. But my thought process was, I'm going through the races document that we're making. We have a play test going. And it's already pretty lengthy. We have 3 different sub races for each main race, okay? As of now, which is, it's a lot. And so we got to the half-kin. This is what we call them. I thought that was a cool name.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was a very clever idea.
So the idea behind half-kin was it was sort of creating umbrellas for half creatures to exist under, so that you're not creating half-elf, half-orc. And we call them quarterlings.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
I know that was a joke.
Well, but okay. The point is that I thought, and I understand there are a lot of accepted tropes of where elves came from, why humans can mate with elves and so on. I'm not trying to just pee on your campfire but just rethinking the world and saying what fits for us.
So, as an interesting counterpoint, or just as a different perspective, something that I find interesting is that there aren't half everythings, and there are never quarterlings. You know what I mean? So like us, if we get a DNA test, like Barker had a DNA test recently that said he was this many % this and this and this and this. Now, granted, same species, right? But orcs are humanoid, or even a better example being like elves.
Okay.
To me, I'm like, basically, I could come up with reasons why they could mate and they couldn't mate. But let's go further.
Okay.
Half elf with a half orc. Then what happens? I'm like, why is nobody addressing this? Because at some point you have to stop because you're trying to stat it out for rules. You know what I mean?
That's what stopped me.
Because I'm like,
we got that many races in, and I was like, making rules for Halfkin, this section is going to be really long.
Well, no, but in my mind, it'd be really short because that was the idea of the umbrella.
And here's what I figured out. Yes, someone asked, do they still have Crystal Pepsi? So I was just as surprised as you were that they re-released it.
Yeah.
They re-released it in a limited run last year, and then it was gone. And we just went to get energy drinks today, and I saw them and said, yep.
Yeah.
So, yep, Crystal Pepsi. Now they need to bring back 3D Doritos. 3D Doritos were like vomit-tasting bugles.
It was because they had to make them basically bugles that I didn't like them. I never liked bugles as a kid. Did you like bugles though? Regular bugles, just not ones that taste like vomit? No. So many people love.
You know why?
Why?
They are like, yeah, they're like cheese-covered Chex.
Yeah, there was
Chex
just there was
cereal.
a
I'm like,
flavor back there to me.
Somebody
man.
invented the way to puff corn, or yeah, it's corn.
You know what I think it is? They use like goblin farts, and that's why it tastes funny. They're like, listen, we can buff it, but there's a pretty bad downside. It's like the
we can buff it.
No, puff it.
Oh.
It's like Slurm from Futurama. Yeah. They're like, listen, you don't want to know where it comes from. Goblin farts, baby.
Baby. So here's what you need to know if you're gonna back this book. You're thinking of kickstarting this book. Right now, the way that the races work currently, it's been play tested and it's worked very well. We're coming up with something that's kind of like with a working title called, oh, you want me to say this link?
Yes, that's great.
All right. It is the heritage system. So the idea is that it can become pretty cumbersome to make a bunch of different things that you can pick. Like, oh, I want to be a mountain dwarf, but pick from this long list. So that's why when you're playing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, you pick a mountain dwarf, you get some specific things like, hey, all of these dwarves get this, this, and this done. So what is the balance between that and giving yourself a little more customization? And so right now, it's been play tested and it's worked pretty well. You get heritage. Okay, now what heritage allows you to do, if you're a dwarf of Dragongrin, let's say I choose an Uldane dwarf. You can either choose one major heritage trait or 2 minor heritage traits. And they're very, very short lists. Very short lists, like 3 of each, that's it. So for instance, now these are all balanced based on 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So you're wanting to create a race, or a character rather, you choose the Uldane dwarves. Instead of saying, okay, entire race, all of you have resistance to poison, all of you have this, all of you have this, that's it. Instead, I'll give you some examples so that I can explain how I think the Halfkin should work. Minor heritage traits would be Stone Soul. Due to your lineage, you have a stone-like skin granting resistance to piercing damage. You can choose that as one. Or Will of Stone. With only 6 hours of sleep, you gain the same benefit that a human does from 8 hours of sleep. So you can basically stay awake. Or you can choose a major heritage trait, which would be Uldane Doggedness. When an attack would reduce you to 0 hit points, but not outright kill you, you may use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack before you fall unconscious. That's a cool trait. So here's my idea for Halfkin. The Halfkin is a sub-race.
A sub-race.
Well, kind of.
No, I don't get
You choose Halfkin, and you may not choose a major heritage trait, but you must choose 1 minor heritage trait from one side and 1 minor heritage trait from the other.
Okay, because I forgot that the heritage traits were, you choose those. If you choose the subrace that we've created, instead of saying you get bit, you just went through all this. I was talking to people on here. I'm so sorry. I'm just like, oh, he just said all of that.
Gotcha. So instead of,
yeah, I love that.
That way, and then it's easy. It's just a paragraph in the book.
And that's why in my mind, I'm like, dude, that's such a cool idea that there's no reason not to, because I like that way better.
But that's it. So I just lied to you. It's not a subrace. It is a race.
Yeah, it's a race.
But you basically choose, and we'll pick what the template is. Like half-elves, people like half-elves can have high charisma. So you got to figure out what your main...
You mean to tell me people pick their race based on the stats they get?
No. Yes. I honestly think that was part of the inflammation of getting rid of them, personally. Some of it was mechanical. So
what they don't know is half elves and Dragongrin get a negative to critical.
Ooh, burn. And I'm glad you responded to the chat. We got a ton of people watching, and it's awesome. So if I wanted to make, now here's the thing. By putting that in there, you have to say, okay, get with your dungeon master to see what he allows.
Okay, get with your dungeon master to see what he allows.
Okay, but
that is one of my favorite gags from a TV show.
But
you say it a lot.
There is no definitive yeses or nos. Anyone can be a half anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not going to come up with names for all of them.
Yeah, no, it's just, it would be up to
you're halfkin?
Yeah, kind of like.
You're halfkin, that's it.
You know what a not that great example is that I'm going to use anyways?
Tell me a not great example.
The way they name bastards in Game of Thrones. If you were a bastard, they're like, listen, we don't care who you're the bastard. Yep. You may be the bastard of. You're a flower, or I think that was one of them.
Flower, snow. They give you these
don't know any of the other ones, but yeah.
I love it. What's the chat saying?
So one specific question just came up that we'll talk about after we look.
Sure.
The main thing is people are saying things about the half races. You can read the chat, I know, but Baptiste says, so a bit like a feat for Pathfinder might be a bit cumbersome. So the important thing, well, you can go ahead, but I think I have the idea.
Go ahead and tell me.
The idea is these are the things that come with races and sub races already. You're just choosing them. So if you don't want to look through all of them and pick like feats, don't be a halfkin, or be a halfkin and be like, I just want this.
Yes.
One and this one.
The other thing to state is that I think it would probably be worth having
all of them in one place.
Well, no, having a section. So it's like, here are the major heritage traits and the minor heritage traits. And then right under that, I think it would be good to say, if you don't want to use the major and minor, if you don't want to use the heritage system, this is what this race would look like in 5th edition.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And do a Uldane dwarf. This is it. This is the all across the board mountain dwarf. Like, this is the one. But if you want to use this system, you choose from these two. Basically, all you're doing, listen, mechanically speaking, you just get a bunch of things that are similarly balanced, and you allow players to choose thematic, similarly balanced racial traits. You keep it very simple. Trust me when you see it, and the playtest went very well. People are responding very well. I did see one thing that said, can you do a half Sarek?
Yes, and that was the other thing we can touch on that we kind of touched on last time.
So to me, after you talk about halfkin in the races doc, the next section is about the, whatever you want to call them, the unique races of Dragongrin.
Yeah, to put it clearer, Sarek isn't strictly speaking a race in the same way that everything else is a race.
It is a template you apply to whatever you used.
Because the Sarek won't all be, they're not a race in that all Sarek are humanoid, or
exactly.
I guess they would be. But
well, they would be humanoid.
Not all human. But like, you could be a Sarek dwarf, you could be a Sarek. You could conceivably be a Sarek halfkin. But we probably are going to make rules where it's a little simpler, and you're like, you're not picking 10 things because you're.
And they go, oh, but if you want to be a Sarek halfkin, that might be the homework you have to do. But the idea is that Morden, which are like Drow, Duergar, Sverth Neblin, we're kind of covering them all under one umbrella, which is Morden. It's like you're a dark creature.
Exactly.
And it is a template you apply to whatever you choose. Well, that sounds like a lot. Yeah, well, our version is to just do it that way to cover the whole umbrella, rather than having to come out with errata. That's like, here are the Drow stats, here are the Duergar stats, here are the Sverth Neblin stats.
Alexia asks, is it only human combos? And that's sort of the beauty of halfkin is no, you can make any two.
I think if we're going to do it, we need to go all the way and say, you decide what your Dragongrin is like. Here are the rules to create halfkin.
Because we can also, decide as far as like how common they are.
I was just going to say, the most common halfkin are blah, blah, and blah.
Another question was, can half races breed? This is something we sort of touched upon. There's no reason they wouldn't be able to, but the important thing is there won't be rules for quarter kin. No. Basically, there won't be rules for, they can, and it's the sort of thing where, in my mind, people will be maybe in Dragongrin, just like in D&D, it's not going to come up. You don't see half elf, half orc, half whatever. You know what I mean? It's like when a dog, you're like, it's a mutt. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that if I had to come up with an official answer right now and say, well, what is it? My answer would be absolutely. And just like genetics, there are dominant traits, and you use the rules for halfkin.
Exactly, because
That's it.
That's what I mean.
Just use the rules for halfkin. Like you said, there's no quarterkin, but I would then lean on the fact that that's how real life works, and you have dominant and recessive
but
traits.
I guess the important thing is that I'm saying is it's just like D&D 5th edition in that sense. It went all, you know, in not when all else fails, but if you're not sure,
all intents and purposes.
Yeah, or if you're not sure, there's something we're not clear on, look at 5th edition and just do it that way. Where in that case, okay, there's no, you know, quarter races basically.
Game Nub Quinn says, couldn't the template just mostly switch out traits so you don't actually have a lot of work?
So that's what it does, though.
That is what it does. Well, no, you see, that's the thing, is that if you did that, it sort of defeats the purpose of the umbrella for all of them. Like you'd have to say, oh, this is the half. Well, I don't know if I understand. You can clarify, but if it's like, oh, it's an orc and a gnome. I mean, this is getting crazy. I don't know if I want to allow all that. Do you really want to have half orc, half gnomes?
No, here's the most important thing you have to realize. We will have rules for that, but that doesn't mean that they will exist in our Dragongrin.
What exists in our Dragongrin? Because that's a cool draw, a system where you can make half anything and it's relatively easy. And as far as, you know, for my money, that's the easiest way I've seen it done.
Yeah.
Then the way I have seen it done is like all separate.
I'm really sorry, that doesn't matter.
What?
I just want to answer some questions, but you were like kind of going, and I'm like,
no, it does. It does matter. No, that's what I'm saying. It matters to me. What I'm saying is the system being a part of the book is a big seller.
No, I agree. You were just about to go into how other people do it, and I'm like, eh.
Well, it was a very quick answer. The way other people do it is they make an entire sub race for half. So you would have to do every permutation, and they just have a million stat blocks.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is
this
right.
So, Josh says you'll probably need a finite limit on how many templates you can apply. Just in general, it will be one template, but the idea is you would be able to be half kin, half dwarf, half human, Morden, Sarek. But it is kind of like, usually depends on the game your GM is running.
Yeah, and that's where we'd have to play test and say, okay. And usually I would say that the last template applied replaces traits. So like the Sarek trait would replace the other ones because you are
a Sarek. You don't have vulnerable or invulnerable or the thing to piercing damage because you're now
resistance.
Resistance.
So what a Sarek is Ascension Undead. You're Ascension Undead essentially. So there's a lot of stuff to work out. This is honestly why I was like, halfkin scare me.
But that's the important thing is splitting the idea that halfkin and these templates can exist and how they will exist in the world. Because again, there's no reason a Morden couldn't become a Sarek as far as we know right now.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean that we're going to stat out exactly how that would work. Instead, we're going to make it easy and say, nah, the template just replaces it for ease of balance, for that 5th edition.
Exactly. And so
Game Nub says you get 2 traits right or 1 big one. And they're actually, well, that's the thing. He was asking which one. And so that's the thing is there are minor traits of which you can choose 2, or there are major traits of which you can choose 1.
Correct.
So the idea is that we're asking which one is it? I'm saying it's both.
Oh, yep. And here's actually a really good point from Baptiste. First of all, he says, if you meld races all the way, it makes sense. You can get a crazy variety as far as traits and origins. Like, you know, orc origins get this, or so you can be really cool and creative and have anyone's Dragongrin be anything.
Yeah.
What you're looking at has the best point to this particular thought process, which is if I was a DM and someone wanted that many prefixes, I just asked them why and how it happened. If they have a reasonable answer other than, well, because
again, and that's the thing, in my mind, we are going to do our best to make it so that somebody would never do that for the stats. Because you don't get a Morden and a half dwarf and a Sarek. You're just, is it Sarek or Sarek?
I say Sarek.
Sarek, okay.
Sarek.
Because my superpower just went into effect. Do you know who the bad guy in Mass Effect 1 is?
No, I've never played Mass Effect.
Is it Sarek or Sarek?
I just told you I've never played Mass Effect.
No, the Ascension Undead.
Sarek.
It's the same guy.
Oh, is it?
That was the joke.
That's okay.
Say Sarek.
Oh.
I think that's the same.
You know what I found out? The name of the city in Frozen is Arendelle, which is the name of the corruptor. Hey, man.
So, I think that we should eventually circle. You have something else to say?
This is important. Forbidden Lore says. Forbidden Lore says the first thing to establish would be to determine which species can interbreed. Is it jumping the shark to say they all can?
No, but
because I think that's what most people are expecting.
And I feel like this is.
But I'm like, why?
This is a little hand wavy, maybe, but I feel like it needs to be. So get ready for this.
Okay.
They all can, but it's rare that they do. Just like, what are half giants? What are those?
Technically, it's funny because someone just brought this up in a thread. Technically, they're not proven to be half giants. Technically, but the Goliaths.
Oh yeah, but that's what I mean. That idea where it's like, technically, I think you could have half dragons. And you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing.
Polymorph spell.
The idea being all of them can interbreed, but it's rare, if ever, that you're going to see a half orc, half gnome. And if somebody says, I want to play half orc, half gnome, you got to be like, all right, well, it's time to explain to me how that worked. And then they say polymorph spell, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
So what I would probably do, and this is going to sound, I don't know.
Yeah, how do you do this without being racist?
Well, no, it's going to sound Dragongrin, which is all the races can interbreed, but the chances of conception are slim to none.
Boom.
That's it.
That. Okay.
It's just like, hey, it's super rare. Now, every snowflake player out there is still going to be like, but it could happen. It's your Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber saying, so you're telling me there's a chance.
What was all that 1 in a million talk then, huh?
Yeah, because someone has said a half orc, half dragonborn would be scary, and it's like, it would be scary, and that's cool. I think that's really cool.
So GameTub says there was totally a sex chart in an old splat book, this is a direct quote, that showed which races can interbreed.
Oh.
Now I like what you're saying, because the idea is, in my mind, it doesn't make sense to go into the biology of who can and who can't and decide. Because you do one of two things. You decide based on biology, or you decide based on rules. And because of the system we've come up with, we just say halfkin are very rare. But
I think
it's just like, basically they just like half elves. So they will be shunned by everyone.
I did have an idea.
Yeah.
On the way over here, and I totally forgot about it until we were just talking about it now, but
scary.
What if it's only human biology? Just like only the blood type, like O, isn't it the universal donor's O or something? Basically, human genetics, for one way or another, is the only thing. So you can choose human and another. And that's it.
Where did the humans come from in Dragongrin?
I remember, but did we ever reveal that?
Yeah.
From the big primordial thing, according to the legends.
I thought they came from somewhere else.
Did they?
Yeah.
I thought it was that big machine that. Well, I call it a machine. It was the answers. Yeah.
You said primordial.
Harbingers come
from Primordials. Titans. Guys, I don't know my own lore. That's why. So yeah, humans only.
I think that works.
The Harbingers that were created by the primordials to create other things and to sort of adapt.
And so the idea is that you can choose a human and something else.
So I think that makes sense. The important thing is then, okay, so here we have to make a decision.
I think we just had the same idea at the same time.
He took away. Josh, why did you take away all your messages? You retracted them, buddy.
Oh no, you could do that?
I suppose so.
Oh no. I didn't know you could do that.
I guess. So here's the thing. There's another distinction.
Half races can breed, but they act as one of the races, either human or the other one.
Oh, he was wrong about O and negative and O. Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, we don't know anything, Josh, so don't worry.
Oh, gotcha. You're smart.
So the important thing is, like I said, we are going with the same rule in as they have in D&D.
Which is, it's unspoken. If you want to let it happen.
As far as I know, there's not a rule, and they don't stat them out. And I have never seen someone play a half elf, half orc, half elf, half orc.
Right, which maybe they do,
and certainly could. But in my mind, we're just not going to.
No, and the other thing to consider is that in the games that I've played, choosing your race is important, but it happens once when you make the character, and then is usually only coming up in social situations. So your actual origins don't really matter as much, but your social origins and where you came from and where you were raised and all that stuff, if that does come up, is more important than like,
yeah.
In other words, we're the sum of our parents. But when has that ever come up on the channel? We talk about our mom and our relationship and so on, but the actual
our life
is more important than like, hey, our genetics are this, and our father is this, and our mother is this, and it's like more of the sum of the parts is more important than how the parts came together. Ha, double entendre.
Okay, so basically, Game Nub, the important thing is, yeah, there won't be any, specifically mechanically, there won't be any stats for half races. So thematically, they can probably breed and it doesn't matter. But if you wouldn't be able to make a character that was the result of two half races breeding and get a different set of traits.
Correct.
Because the rules just start to get.
The way I would adjudicate that as a DM is I'd say, okay, genetically speaking, you can choose essentially, because the other half would have to still be human or another race. You'd have to, it would be the same rules as a halfkin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same rules. It's just a different story situation.
Oh, yeah, actually, it wouldn't matter. Because
right.
If you...
It'd just be the same rules.
It can get pretty crazy, but we're not going to worry about it. So here's
he said, but I guess that gets kind of dumb. It's not dumb. It's fun to talk about. I think we've been talking.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We've been talking about this for like an hour.
Yes.
But so, it's been important.
Yes. So here's the thing I want to say then.
Okay. And this will kind of be the wrap up for this, and then we'll move on to another.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, because you said there was something big you wanted to change, and I'd like to talk about that.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So no, about this, the idea is we don't have human subraces, which I understand.
Correct.
But what this decision does mean is that we will have to come up with traits. Correct. For the halfkin to work. I'm not saying we have to do that now or have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Now.
So you'd come up with the race template. So it would be you'd essentially say the rules to doing it. So if I had to spitball right now, I would say you either choose your race as human, the main race as human, or you choose the main race as the other thing. Because what does that give you? Well, you can either choose to put 2 ability points wherever you want, which people love. Or you could choose the +2 that the orcs get, or whatever. I just realized something.
It doesn't work at all.
No, it works perfectly. But then you choose the
traits, but you only choose them from basically there are no human traits.
Right. Well, I guess there could be.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, do we need those?
Yeah, I think that there will be.
So Josh is asking the real questions. Yeah, Warforged can breed, and they are they can only breed with tome hearts, and they create half Warforged, half tome hearts, and then those are genetically
so that people don't listen. You're not the one that's going to get 5 messages with ideas of how that works. There are no Warforged in Dragongrin.
So here's the thing. So basically, what we're saying then is we are going to circle back around, but I think that we've decided that humans can.
Yes.
Let's stop saying breed. You can make a half human, a halfkin, but we will make a template for that, and then there will be traits.
And it will be very easy to use. That's the key. Is it's not going to be a bunch of extra tables and charts in a section.
Josh says that's how Zenyatta happened.
So the most important thing is there will be halfkin in Dragongrin, which the other day I was like, maybe there wouldn't be, and so now there will be. That's for sure. And the second thing is that, mechanically speaking, it'll be relatively simple, and there'll probably be some variant rules so that you can have some fun and customize, but not get lost in bookkeeping of having to do all the work of making that happen.
Yeah. So Bronhitis, who just joined us, Tim Super just did a recap right now.
Yes.
If that helps. 2, somebody asked about can Dragonborn, because they lay eggs, there may be in the final thing when we talk about it certain ones that can't be half-kin. But there may not be. We'll see.
Probably. Like, I would say, yeah, we'd have to see.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we can talk about that another time. But we are going to move on to something else. Somebody else. Oh, somebody asked. So there are no Warforged. What did they say?
Oh, does this apply to the Volo's Guide races?
No, I saw something else.
The rules would work with Volo's Guide, but none of those races are officially in our campaign guide. They're in the world, and you can play them in the world. The key to Dragongrin is that you can use anything in it and make your own, right?
Yeah, I thought somebody asked about Warforged because you said there aren't any. But no. And then somebody said something else, and I was going to say.
He said, "What about Warforged powered by Dragon Eggs?"
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, I read there. Okay, so all that to say, then, what do you want to move on to next?
Well, what your big thing you want to change, and then I did want to tell you about the Dragonborn. I had an idea about the Dragonborn and stuff, and I think that it's important, but that's more a regional thing, but it also kind of factors in. But
so, in the past, we had decided that everybody was sort of isolated because of bleak storms. It was impossible to cross them.
It was like, more or less.
Basically,
when you say everybody, do you mean in our world or do you mean in Arbitron?
No, in our world. Like, I can't sail from Grin to a Y because
you can. The way that I imagined it, because we had an offline conversation, and it's funny because I'll just write things to my hard drive, and I'll be like, yep, that's the way it is now. But it could have been an offhanded conversation, which is the bleak storms come and go like actual storms at sea. So it's a matter of timing and being good at it and sailing so you can do it. Okay, it's perfect. Just not because hop in the boat and go across. Normally, it's like, how's the weather? I don't know. Do you have the instruments to read the bleak storms? And then you have to go way off course. So it's erratic and weird.
Then there's nothing I want to change. I still had it in my mind that you couldn't go from one place to another.
You can. It's just you have to have a skilled sailor.
Navigator, yeah.
Yep. Or you're going to sail and there's like, oh, bleak storm. Uh-oh. Or, okay, I know, here comes a bleak storm. I know I need to sail this way because there's less kind of a better chance.
Exactly, yeah.
I also, in my head, I think OY should not have any bleak storms. I think that would be cool if it's this idyllic, just like around that whole area, no bleak storms, just because. You know why? Because some places are nicer than others, and that's just the geographic lottery. Russia has it pretty bad. Like, it's ice and rocks. Like, that's it, you know? So it's like,
it's ice and rock.
So,
no, so I agree.
I like it. So, yeah, I'm super down with that. That's it. I'll let that one clear. Let's see. Now I'm seeing bleak storms as a smoke monster on Lost. Oh, I'm sorry. So,
okay. Game Nub had a question about storms. Just in general, this is something I think we already know.
Go ahead.
This is really specific, but can you fly super high to go over them? So we've talked about that before, but...
So I think the answer would be yes.
If you had the means.
To fly over them.
But in Dragongrin, there wouldn't be many, if any, means to do so reliably or reasonably. And you could certainly be catapulted over one, but then...
Sure. So, well, what about a mage with a fly spell? Awesome. And then when you get about halfway through the bleak storm and your magic starts to run out, and mechanically you have no more fly spell slots, and you then crash into the bleak storm and die.
Well, exactly. Basically, there aren't airships.
No.
Or at least
there's maybe there's maybe a handful of like repurposed Titan kind of like small, medium, and large airships of like but they're super rare. The way I like to think of them is like a car in the Mad Max universe.
Yeah.
You have to work really hard to keep it up because there's not just a gas station. There's not an auto parts store. So you could even have one that you don't have fuel for.
Yeah.
Big airship, and you're like, yeah, we can't fly this much.
He used to fly. So basically, yeah, you can fly over bleak storms, but it doesn't really, it's very difficult to do.
Totally.
Steve Fillmore, Bleak Stormsmen, elite mercenary sailors who specialize in sailing the storms for very high price. Yeah,
exactly.
Navigators.
There's a Copper Jackals chapter called the Bleak Treaders, who specifically they traverse the Bleak so that they can go undetected, get into areas that other people can't go, and it's really cool to have like Lovecraftian sea beasts just lurking in the Bleak to fight. I've always wanted to run a campaign that was like Star Trek, where it's people on a craft just sailing through the Bleak.
Mhm.
How they go from mission to mission to where it's like they just wander around in space. You know, I think I would love that, where there's a crew and it's just the voyage of the SS Bleak's Surprise.
So Game Nub says, what about going under the water?
That would work, but again, is it sustainable?
That's the main thing. I'm like, somebody's figuring it out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Somebody is able to go under the water, but then you run into problems of, well, it's hard to see the Bleak storm, you know, unless you have like a periscope.
Totally.
Sea monsters, you know. So certainly possible. You know what I mean? Like you said, for all intents and purposes, a Bleak storm is a lot like a real storm, except way more, like way stronger. So the idea is like, there are a lot of ways to get around them, and some people do those, but they're not always, you know, they don't always work.
Exactly.
Somebody could have a submersible, but, you know, I don't know, it may not go very well. So.
Right.
But you were saying you were want to talk about Dragonborn.
Oh yeah.
The
There was one other thing I was gonna mention.
The databases.
Jim Moreno says, or craft something like a still suit from Dune. That would be cool. That's the suit that held in the moisture.
Yeah, I think it basically did everything. It helped them breathe.
Right. It kept them alive. Like it was
their
their
excrement. They just
And
they were
so-
peppers.
I think that actually could be kind of a cool concept of people that explore the Bleak with these arcane Bleak suits, essentially.
Or they could be, yeah,
It's
basically.
like astronauts in the Bleak. They're
In
not
my mind-
astronauts. They're Bleak
In my mind,
astronauts.
it's armor that is like enchanted or etched in a special
Right.
way or
And
something.
it has to look awesome and
Freaking awesome.
asymmetrical. I just like that. Old divey, helmety kind of. Like, I don't want it to be like sleek and slender. It's like this big. I got the. There's a Simpsons episode where he goes, "If you run out of air, tug 57 times. If you're okay, tug 58." That
Yes.
got me somewhat.
That
Tug
is
57, and then later in the episode, he's like, 48, 49, 57, oh no, 58, thank God.
That's the flying hellfish episode.
Yes.
Never forget that.
Oh man, it's a good one.
So you Dragonborn something.
All right. This was a way before offhanded, like BC, like before Christos. I don't know. This is like original. We were just coming up with Dragongrin like a year ago. We're like, it's like a
We talked different back then. What if
we talked about Dragonborn being part of Erasios, and then I just
that's
was
a place, by the way.
Erasios is
islands.
like it. Yeah, the Erasios Islands is like a South America kind of like chain of islands,
That's really all we know. And they might have Dragonborn on them.
which is fine. If anything, I was actually thinking it'd be cool if one, I don't know, we can talk about if there are Dragonborn there, which would be cool. Like maybe like the gold Dragonborn, silver Dragonborn, like the metallic Dragonborn are there. But the chromatic Dragonborn, basically I was thinking that Uldane, which is the grin of dragons, the graveyard of dragons, I thought it'd be really, really cool if Dragonborn in the world, and this is basic, people do this all the time, but specifically saying it like the Dragonborn of Dragongrin are super rare and specifically cordoned off.
The Dragonborn of Dragongrin are dragon men.
The dragon men.
You said that a lot. But they're very rare.
Well, they're very rare, and their entire job, most of them, is to essentially try to maintain the grave sites of all these dragons, maybe resurrect the dragons, like trying all that, like that's their whole thing. It's like they do their own thing up in Uldane because it's where they're from. It's the dragons' keepers, essentially.
So, I like the idea of people that do that, but I like more the idea that people are more or less conscripted into that, whether through a cult or, you know, so it could
Sure.
be anyone.
So that's
It could
where
be
you
a
get
lot
your
of Dragonborn for sure. But
That's what I was thinking. But to me, I think that that's where the Dragonborn, if for instance, what I'm saying is, you see a Dragonborn, it's like, oh, that dude's looking for people to go and slave away in the dragon graveyard.
oh gosh, yeah, okay.
Like,
yeah.
It's not just like, oh, it's Gaharl Clanless, the Dragonborn, I'm scared. It's like, oh, dude, that Dragonborn is looking to enslave me. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Like, But that's their whole jam is.
I guess then in my mind, I'm like, what do they do with the dragon graves? They like make sure the flowers are fresh? Or?
No, the way I look at it is, it's like, to me, you say dragon grave. I'm not. Stop imagining that fresh dirt with a tombstone.
I know.
To me, imagine that every major dragon. Okay, I'm gonna go a little nuts on you here.
Okay.
Because I did this brainstorming.
Because everything else wasn't nuts.
No, I did this brainstorming live stream where I was like, because people were saying like, well, where did Dragonborn come from? And I was like, you know what I think Dragonborn? I think I have the notes.
So while you pull that up, somebody said party setting up, or Alexia said party setting up in a base in an unusable airship sounds really great.
Oh, that's actually a really cool idea. Because then the campaign could be trying to get the thing to work.
It is. My thing I was going to say is at one point, I don't know if this is still canon or what, but the first Jackals, their base of operations is a downed airship.
Right. And people don't. The way I'd probably run it is that ship doesn't fly very often because it's like.
Well, yeah, I imagine
it's expensive.
But the idea is they set up their base there.
Right.
But yeah, I love the idea of an airship. The other thing is an airship could possibly run or could possibly float on the water depending on the style. I wouldn't say we really know the style of airships. But the idea is it could have the capability of flying, but also sail. So it's a sort of thing where it could be a sailing vessel that they are trying to get in the air to go over a bleak storm.
That's cool.
That would be really cool.
All right. So let's talk about this. All right. So in Uldane, I thought it'd be really cool if there was this shining human city furthest north Bleakward, where the Bleak clears. Now, some say it's a myth, some say it's not, but think Robert E. Howard, Conan, Edgar Rice Burroughs, Samaria.
They all live there.
They do, and they play cards. There's a Robert E. Howard's characters playing poker painting. I'm saying a lot, like the stupid way. I'm really sorry. Someone said to play a drinking game where every time we say exactly, and you will die.
Oh, guys, that was in the rules video. So especially because they were things we were on the same page on. Oh man, that would be the worst thing.
So this is some say, many posit, others believe. There's no like, this is how it is. Science has proven it. Some say the most popular belief, is how I wrote it here, is that the origin of a dragonborn is this. A piece of the soul of the dragon is placed inside a mortal vessel. It's a defense mechanism, as these beings are essentially an extension of the dragon, attempting to see a way to bring their master or themselves back to life and health. This means that they function autonomously, but have the same internal wiring to serve the same dragon from which they were born. Some say that these dragonborn develop a strong will of their own to strike out, forging their own destinies. Others posit that as the dragons age in their grin, barely living, that their souls have become weak, and the dragonborn were born more and more independent of the original dragon's will. They start to like
the soul sort of shreds, like shards out.
Right, and then it became like that's where the dragon eggs kind of come from.
So then there's like was it a Jet Li movie where he
is
the one?
Yeah,
it becomes the one type situation.
And then the other one says many. So it's like some say the dragonborn have a will of their own to strike out. Others posit that might have been the original thing, but now there are so many that they interbreed and they're not dragon soul shards.
Exactly, yeah.
And then many believe that the dragonborn are so far removed from their dragon masters that they form their own ecology altogether and are born from eggs, perpetuating their race. But what I was saying is, we call it the Dragongrin. There are plenty of dragon corpses there, half buried in, Elephant's Graveyard, Lion King. That's not what I mean. I mean, there are at least a good 7 or like Mega Man boss number of cool super dungeons with a dragon corpse at the bottom of it. And there's a water guy, and you gotta use the water guy against the fire guy.
But, and always remember this, not Snake Guy first.
Oh, Snake Man. It's for you, baby.
No, Snake Guy.
You're right.
It's a copyright infringement if we do Snake.
No, it's true. So my thought process is, long ago, the Dragonborn built temples. Basically, these Dragonborn slaved away building, using this lore as a template, these Dragonborn were born of these dragons as a defense mechanism, and they started crafting these housings, these temples, these mausoleums for their masters.
Temples or mausoleums, because they're not like.
No, it's like
you walk in, it's like, no, this is made to kill you. You are not supposed to be here.
And I think each one is now essentially a city. Like, it's the size of a city, and it's full of like red Dragonborn. And it's like red Dragonborn live there, and there are the corpses of red dragons under there. I don't know. That seems cool.
It's awesome. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and that's where the Dragonborn are from. So they don't just come skulking down like, hey, what's going on, guys? They're like, no, I'm busy. I'm busy.
But like you said,
I got Dragonborn meetings. I got these TPS reports up to Dragonborn here.
But this was a long time ago.
That's the rumor.
So Dragonborn still probably live in Uldane.
Yes.
And are horribly scarred and disfigured, or they're not affected, or
I would say
Uldane's supposed to be like.
I would say that they are more draconic and like gnarly looking, but not mutated and like. But they're more like feral Dragonborn looking. And I would say
now, because Uldane is
it's all jacked up. Yeah.
Because previously it was where the dragons died, and these Dragonborn, it was put upon them by their dragon masters to build these temples.
Yeah.
But now it's like some of them still are drawn to stay, some are still drawn to keep them up.
What up, Chad?
And things, but not all of them.
I think it's a great source of conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're talking about religious zealotry. You're talking about infidels, like religious zealotry versus like they would kill other Dragonborn who aren't serving. You know what I mean? Like there are some who, to me, it could be a hotbed for race war, because it's like, the red Dragonborn fight the blue, and I don't know if you want to put all the colors up there. That's maybe a little I don't know.
I guess in my mind,
like you don't want to have the map where it's like, and then this is Mega Man this guy and Mega Man this guy.
Yeah, in my mind, we'd have to decide why they died there, and then.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it to be like.
Yeah, exactly.
Supernatural arcane atom bomb a long time ago.
But I guess that's what I mean is, so to me it would be like
it was the final war, and
yeah. So, but the idea being
it was like a trap, or like maybe I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Or maybe, oh, that would be cool. What if the Dragonborn took and for like centuries? Oh, dude, what if it's that? What if? Okay, you have to retrieve the body and bury it where it belongs, so they have peace. So what if the Dragonborn of Dragongrin for centuries have found dragon corpses, excavated them, and brought them back to Uldane where they belong? And that's where they are. So if you find a Dragonborn camp in Dragongrin, they're there to be like, hey, we're here to dig something up.
They are the government in the X-Files. Like, get the hell out of here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here.
We'll be gone in a week.
Well, I like that, to where it's like they come marching down, and
like you said, same deal. People are like, no, they'll just take you with them.
I would stay out of their way and let them dig up the femur of, Cyranox the Feared.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So
I like that it is I'm gonna use the phrase man-made loosely. A man-made graveyard in that sense.
Yeah, it's the Grin of Dragons. Now, I like the fact that maybe the most powerful dragon died there.
And that's why. There's a reason that it happens.
That's why it's like, no, this is where she
belongs. That's it. That's the thing is, okay, so, all right, let's spitball it. So a long time ago, there weren't even people. Maybe not that long. But basically, the idea is at some point, dragons are fighting and dying, whether to people or to things or to each other or something. So that happens.
Right.
But then Uldane, something still has to happen in Uldane to screw it all up, which is the arcane atom bomb. Yeah, we're just like, that happened, and we'll figure out why eventually.
Sure.
But we're not going to worry about that in this instance. So basically, there has to be one dragon or a few, a council, say, or something like that, that started the Dragonborn saying, hey, we need to get everybody here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody had to decide that.
No, I like that. I hear what you're saying.
And so in my mind, somebody decided that, like, this is where we will lay. And then arcane atom bomb. And so they still do it, but the main one,
right,
or the main ones, or however, whatever, whoever decided that that's what had happened. Like, I'm thinking like, what if it was like a primordial dragon? You know what I mean? Like this, like
something
crazy.
That's what it has to be. That's what it has to be. Where it's like Dragon Prime. Like,
so that's why they do it. But so in my mind, like you said, just like anything else, there would be Dragonborn that live other places and do other stuff. But if you see, Dragonborn roll in, not talk to anybody, and shut down the town for a week, it's because there's a dragon corpse nearby.
Right. No, it's true. And exactly. So like Jonathan is like, it would make the presence of the Dragonborn significantly more terrifying for new modern Dragongrinites. And that's exactly right, which is when you see the Dragonborn, it's a 50-50 chance that they are there to zealously remove the corpse of one of their gods, or, hey, I just kind of broke away from all that and I'm trying to forget my past.
Exactly.
And you can decide which adventurer you play, but it's still like, it gives common people a good reason to shun them other than they look scary.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no. You'll probably enslave me. It's a ritual for you to eat me. It's an honor to your god. Also, even if you did...
Also, and I'm quoting religious text here.
Also, even if you didn't want to eat me or enslave me, I don't know if you're going to get tired of this whole adventure, change life thing and eat me and enslave me.
Exactly. Like you might be lying. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, basically, Dragonborn get a bad rap overall.
Oh, and Steve Fillmore says, what if it's like an elephant graveyard? Dragons had flown to Uldane to die when things went bad. Not all the dragons could make it back, and now the Dragonborn seek out the fallen to return them. So that's kind of cool. Because I made the joke not realizing
that's
how an elephant graveyard is actually, that's actually really good, because I was like, oh, it's the elephant graveyard from Lion King.
There were a lot of things, yeah.
But that's actually a really good idea where it's like, that's the place. And sometimes those things just occur in nature. Maybe it's just, we should look at elephant graveyard and kind of go from there.
But yeah, exactly. I like the idea that they are, that basically, and I know that for some reason I keep seeing the fact that deities in Dragongrin is a touchy subject. Basically, the idea is that it is, like you said, religious zealotry, and there's a good chance that, dragons are about if Dragonborns are.
Exactly.
Dragonborn are.
Yeah.
So is that to say that it's unlikely that dragons are now in Dragongrin, no dragons that we know of? That we know of,
I'd say no. I think when the first dragon reappears in Dragongrin, I want it to be like Deathwing popping up, and it's like,
so
the dragon.
So what if,
in my mind,
what if I don't know, we can talk about something else if you want. What if the arcane atom bomb was because somebody wanted to get rid of the dragons, and that was how?
To me, that's exactly what it was, and it goes all the way back. Most people believe it goes all the way back to the Titans and the Primordials warring.
Yeah.
The Primordials came. The Primordials
make the dragons.
Yeah, the Primordials came up with the dragons.
So and like, this is how we kill all the dragons.
Like, this is how we do it. The way I like to imagine it was, I think that the Titans built Deep Vault and said, "Yeah, we're gonna blow everything up.
Yeah,
we're gonna blow everything up. We're going to just destroy it all." And they did. And that's why basically everything on the surface died. They went in a deep vault, and that kind of went messy.
That didn't go as planned.
But in addition to that, what ended up happening was the primordial super weapon that was like the creation engine survived because it was designed to survive. And then over eons and eons, it slowly started making life again. And that's where the humans came from. And then the elves came from the Fae, kind of doing their thing. And then the other races, which we can kind of figure all that out. But to me, that's the idea, is that the Titans set off an arcane super bomb. And to me, that's why the Bleak ripped. I think that's why Eminence ripped. They decided, hey, there's this creation force, and we've been tapping into it to create Arcanics. We make this magical technology. What if we rip it on purpose?
Basically, they were like, they're using it, we're using it, and we keep one-upping each other. So what's the end game?
What's the end game? And they said,
that
arms race. Let's just tear it open. Let's just blow up the oil fields. You can't use it anymore. And we built this thing. You don't have that mindset or technology. We built this thing, this deep vault, this
deep vault
on Dragon
copper. Oh, no, that's better.
Wagabones.
Wagabones.
That's it. And then they go, beep.
There is a song called Rag and Bone.
Oh yeah.
It's funny to say wagon bone or picking up the tin can, throwing it all in his donkey wagon. Those are the real lyrics, except for Dragon Bone.
We are buddies.
Oh, buddies.
Let's see here.
Yeah, okay.
There's some good comments, and we're making
Wagon Bone.
wagon bones.
That's us, guys.
Oh, what you're looking at says, now I want a dragon queen bee. With Dragonborn as workers and drones, and with the absence of male dragons, they compete to be turned into a male. That's a very interesting concept. It's very like using the bee concept.
Yeah, somebody mentioned the bee concept. I don't know if it was him, but basically somebody had that idea.
I miss gem dragons. What if some of the listen, man, gem dragons are pretty cool. So there's some cool art of those in the various monster manuals. What about the Dragon Lord? Winged dragons.
So can I just say, as Tim reads more of the chat, this is what we want Dead Man's Guide to be. Is we want to say, this is what's happening, and we want you guys to ask all of these questions. There's no way that a book could answer all the questions.
Exactly.
At least not one this big. That's not like, no, this is a book about the Dragonborn of Uldane.
Right.
We'll never be able to be like, yeah, and then this and this. So this is what we want it to be. This is the idea, is like to read through it, to hear some of this stuff, or to read in your case.
And then come up with your own.
What about the factions? You know, somebody said that this also opens the door for other factions who are very intrigued finding out exactly what they are doing. You could run the super dungeons. People would go there.
Right.
People trying to study the arcane bomb. You know, we're basically like, yeah, man, we're throwing out them plot hooks.
And to me, that's why you shouldn't go so deep. I think you should go about as deep as we are, because people want to finish the story themselves.
The Game Nub says, just make the book 1,500 pages. It already is. No, it's gonna be a lot of pages. But
I would be stunned if it was less than 250.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if it was less than 250. Oh, Jonathan Henry said, or what if they're trying to make Draco Liches? I think some of them are. I think that's the thing, is that
not everybody is necessarily doing the same thing.
No, and that's where you have,
you're like different dragon cults fighting each other.
Right. And so there are going to be sections in the book. One of them is going to be Wonders, and it's going to have the Dragon's Grin. I think it would be cool, rather than giving you a lore dump and having all these paragraphs where you're just kind of like blah, blah, blah. There'll be a good chunk, maybe like a couple paragraphs explaining this stuff. But then bullet points and roll tables, giving you multiple ideas. One of them is a roll table of what is happening at this particular dragon temple. And one of them is, you know, zealots from within have decided to raise their lord as a Draco Lich.
Yeah. Like rather than honoring it for, you know, and honoring it and just making sure, keeping up the temple, they're like, now we're raising this thing.
Doing it, we're gonna take a shortcut. To me, that's cooler, because then everybody's Dragongrin is different. So it's just like, oh, well, what's happening? Oh, I chose to do this.
And you can run, I mean, infinite things anywhere, you know, rather than be like, oh, I'm going to run the one about the guy that did the thing.
Right. Because here's what happens. You ignore our lore anyway if you don't like it. And that's how an RPG should be.
Yeah.
So what if we instead of giving you this wall of text for you to just make your own anyway, what if we give you the tools to make your own after giving you this really inventive seed to inspire you? Like, hey, here go the temples. Here's how we kind of see. This is what we think is happening.
And the other beautiful thing is you can just take one of those temples and put it in your world. Just whether it's a world that you have a setting for, or you're just like, oh, I just want to run something, not necessarily even mention Dragongrin. It's a one shot. I don't want to go into all that. So we're just going to run this. So Josh, what you're looking at said, not an encyclopedia, but a Cliff's Notes. And
an atlas of inspiration.
An atlas of inspiration, because that goes into what Jonathan said was, I think this has been a great way you've developed Dragongrin. You produce work that inspires creativity and plot hooks. We decided, we looked at a few source books, or like setting books rather.
Setting guides.
And like Eberron, and I can't think of any other ones, Faerun, and I don't remember any other ones now. But the idea is they do their best to tell you as much as they can, and you can still do a lot with that.
Right.
But to me, I didn't like the idea that you're like, okay, so if we're playing Eberron and we all have an understanding, it's harder for me to change it, because I'm like, you're like, no, in Eberron this.
Because look, read the section.
To some degree in Dragongrin that will happen, because some things will be like, hey, this is kind of how it works. But we're really pushing the idea that it should always be your Dragongrin.
Yep.
Because we realize very quickly that when you're making a setting with two people, even our Dragongrin's different.
Which is okay. And coming to that realization, it's like RPGs are one of the only, if not the only medium where that is totally workable.
Because it's not a novel where you're like, well, yeah, but that messes up my plot, that messes up the ending to my
exactly. And so I want to make sure it's clear. There will absolutely be definitives of what we think it is. So we're not going to just make it a book of roll tables of like choose your own adventure.
Make your own.
It's going to be like, hey, we posit this. This is the framework. This is our vision. And then here are some options to change it for your own game.
Yeah.
Like, here are some ways to look at this. What are some plot hooks that tie into that?
Yeah, like
what are some things that could change?
Exactly. Like I said earlier, basically say, we're going to try to give you stuff to make you ask all of these questions yourself. So in the future, we are going to release books about Dragongrin that are, you know, okay, this is the region and it's more specific, or this is, you know, an adventure and it goes very deep into the lore of this particular thing.
Exactly.
But the idea is, because the timeline for that is years, because of the way our company currently works,
right?
It's like, you know what, let's get something out there so that people have a big picture of Dragongrin and fill in the gaps as we can. So it's the sort of thing where we're going to leave out a lot of stuff that we'll cover in more detail later.
Exactly. And so a couple of really good comments. One of them, Jim Moreno says, this also opens up the door for other factions who are very intrigued at finding out exactly what those Dragonborn are actually doing. That's exactly right. People who are on the outskirts are like, we worship them. We think they're awesome. Like, it's this adoptive mentality of like, they're doing something cool. We need to get it. You know, we need to be a part of that. Steve Fillmore, this is working. It's inspiring you all to think of things. And I'm like, dude, this is what this book is going to do.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the dirge that a group of Dragonborn would sing while walking through a town carrying back some of the remains of one of their fallen dragons?
And more so, the idea that some or all of the people in the town or wherever would respect that. They wouldn't be like, oh, more Dragonborn. They're like, no, this is a big deal to them, and we respect how they feel about it, because even to people in the town, they're like, those are the bones of a dragon. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, listen, we don't even understand that. So, you know, they bar the doors and they hide, or they join in,
right.
Or, you know what I mean? They have like sort of a small, like somber festival as the Dragonborn are, like he said, carting them through the town. You know, these
cool.
remains, these different bones on different things, and you're just like,
I have
a really cool thing.
I have a geopolitical thing that ties this together really well for the world to make it so that this matters in an everyday situation. I've always thought of the Dismembered Lord as being very superstitious in his own way, believing heavily in prophecy and what he has read and seen, you know. I think, because the symbol for the world is a dragon, I think that it would be really cool if, I'm just thinking this, I'm going to tell you what I was going to say after I tell you what I just thought of as a little stinger in front of it. I think it would be interesting if the Dismembered Lord was personally afraid of dragons.
Yeah.
Like actually afraid, but he has extrapolated from the data available to him that their presence and it's all very good for the world and what he sees in the future. So he puts a lot of stock in them. It's not your typical, I will raise the dragons. No, as far as he's concerned, he's like, man, I hope they never succeed.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
But the edict in Central Dragongrin is that the Dragonborn are essentially, kind of going back to what you were saying, but really, they're kind of like above it all. They're political
like
emissaries.
Police. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
They're like, allowed to go in and say, hey, this is our house now. And you're like, what? It's like, yeah, the Dismembered Lord has given us free reign. There are potentially dragon bones under here.
Here's the thing.
Basically, he's like, yeah, guys, hey, listen, I love you guys. You do what you do, and you can do whatever you want.
But here's the thing.
Tell me.
I think that it's the opposite.
Tell me.
They say, we're going to do whatever we want. It's not that the Dismembered Lord's like, yes, you are, and feel free. But they don't go in dropping the Dismembered Lord's name. They go in like, hey, this is our house now because we say so.
Right. And
if people are like, well, the Dismembered Lord, they go, you feel free to tell him whatever you want.
So I like the fact that you're playing both sides of the fence, whereas the Dismembered Lord has to show power.
Yeah.
and can't be like, oh, we got a Dragonborn.
Exactly.
But that is a weakness of his, is his superstition in this area, believing that they have a key to the future of the realm, but whatever.
Yeah, in my mind,
so he's kind of like
holy order, like nobody tells them what to do.
Right.
Even if the Dismembered Lord wanted to, he wouldn't be able to.
Well, it would be outright war.
Well, exactly.
I
would be like, hey.
I think it's a special kind of fear, because I want to make sure that we maintain a level of all-powerful evil with the Dismembered Lord.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
But I also think that having a side of humanity and an interesting level of flaws.
Well, exactly, and I
guess what I'm saying is, yes, he fears it, but he doesn't fear them. He could squash them, and he could, I believe, over time.
That's the important thing.
It would be a long, bloody war, but he believes that he would win. So he's not afraid. Like
he believes that he believes he would win if there were no dragons, and he's unsure of whether or not that's true. So the idea is
that's the jam.
He isn't afraid of them, and he could probably keep them out of Dragongrin, but if he ever tried to keep them from Dragon Bones, basically it doesn't hurt him at all.
Right.
So there's no reason for him to, like you said, it would be war, and he might win, but because their only aim is Dragon Bones, he's not concerned.
Right. And it's better to have a neutral pseudo ally than it is to have an open enemy.
Exactly. Because in the same respect, it's like,
I like that.
In my mind, I like the idea that if he did fight them, they would find a way to raise the dragon and they would kill his ass.
Yeah.
But they have no reason to do so.
Ty, get away from the plug, buddy.
Which also makes it very interesting. Ty, come here, buddy. Come on.
That's the one place you can't go, because if you kick the power strip, it's show over.
Game over. The other thing is, what was I gonna say? Oh, they also I feel like Dragonborn during the war. Dragonborn coming down during the war is a huge deal, because you're fighting a battle. I mean, you're camped on either side of this front line, and the Dragonborn are like, hold up, guys. Dragon Bones. Don't even think about it. We will end you.
Oh,
and people are like, okay, temporary armistice here. We gotta let the Dragonborn do their thing, or we're gonna have a different war.
Dude, that's cool.
So just little stuff like that where, like I said, like they're just above it all. They're just like, don't mess with us, because we're doing our thing and you can do yours. I gotta let the dog out.
All right.
Well, not God, but
I'll read some.
There was something I wanted to read first. I'm gonna do this. Oh, somebody said this sounds. I don't really play 5th edition, but it sounds agnostic enough that I'm interested. The stats and stuff will be 5th edition.
We were just talking about this. So there will be race stuff that's 5th edition. There will be backgrounds that are 5th edition. But all the inspiration and all the story stuff and the roll tables and all that stuff, it's absolutely 100% system agnostic. And if there was anything that was like quote unquote 5e, it would be so easy to tap dance around that it wouldn't even.
And then Josh mentioned that a lot of AbTap stuff was basically the same way.
Yeah, we try to be system agnostic, and at the same time we have to choose somewhere to plant our flag so that the books are immediately usable. And we've had this conversation before at length, which is, if you give somebody something that's totally agnostic, it can be helpful, but there's a barrier of entry because you have to do the work to, say, convert it to Fate or 5e. And then you're writing your own book, which is fine, but we found that people have more success if we use 5th edition as a really good benchmark. A lot of people are familiar with it, and they can easily reskin it or use similar mechanics from other systems because they see the example of 5th edition. So yeah, let's see. Jim Moreno says, so would all the Dragonborn be neutrally aligned? I think it's more interesting if they're not. Nobody likes a Joffrey. And there are some Joffrey Dragonborns. There are some good ones too. I think it's super cool if they're all, it takes all kinds. And so putting the imperfections of your mind, will, and emotions into your religious zealotry is a hotbed for conflict. So let's see here. Game Note says that might mean the Dismembered Lord has his own group of Dragonborn that he uses to interfere with the rest without causing too much trouble. There would certainly be Dragonborn that were aligned to him.
Yeah,
definitely.
And he would certainly have, I wouldn't even necessarily say spies, but people that tell him what's going on.
It would be cool. What do you think about this? What if there were particular Dragonborn posted in Grin like how the Dwarven district is in the middle of Stormwind.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's basically a temple, and I don't know, something. Maybe it's got like, it doesn't have like a full-on dragon corpse, but it's like, hey, this is our what do you call it? Not the foreign embassy.
Oh yeah.
Like basically a Dragonborn embassy in Grin, because there's a lot of conflict there, possibly.
Let's take that further.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about it being a religion that at least some people follow. Not necessarily saying there's a deity behind it or anything like that, but they are religious. Why wouldn't there be temples everywhere? In my mind, I'm like, now I'm not saying there's hundreds, but I'm saying like there would be one in certain places where you're like, oh, and you can go in and it's Dragonborn and it's just like any other temple. But, you know, obviously the implication is that you feel or you believe the same things they believe.
No, I love it.
But anybody could go in there, you know, there'd be priests.
The idea is that there would be temples. I'd say they would probably stay mostly central to Ul'dane because of what they believe.
Yeah.
But there would be some, like, why would I put a temple on this wretched face of this city, or, you know,
they
whatever.
would have temples not in places like, oh, we need donations, but they would have temples in places that meant something.
Right. Trade routes, water supplies.
Or, like you said, dragon bones, or
Sure.
a particular dragon battle that took place, or things like that.
No, it's perfect. Steve says, the zealotry of the Dragonborn is above all politics. Nothing stands between the Dragonborn and their duty. What about the dismembered lord? I guess he has never seen a reason to try.
That's basically the idea.
That's it. Titanborn. There are Typhonborn. Well, that's another stream.
Oh, yeah.
Alphabet King says, how come nobody ever seems to use Neverwinter in D&D games? I actually see some Neverwinter stuff.
Because Neverwinter is just, it's a city in, it's on the Sword Coast of Faerun.
Right. I think you mean like Faerun or you know,
Forgotten Realms.
Forgotten Realms is the word I was looking for.
I don't see a lot of people use it, but I'm pretty sure a ton of people do.
I'm not opposed to it.
Because like actually adventure paths probably take place in
any of the stuff.
Realms, right?
I was gonna say any of the stuff you've seen with Storm King's Thunder, and
I don't see much of the actual city of Neverwinter there. But
sure.
I'm sure they could go there.
The reason why we don't use it is because one of our favorite things to do is to write and create, and it's fun to make our own world.
Yeah.
And that to me is like 50% of the allure of RPG games. So that's why, for me, I'm not opposed to it at all. And I totally play in an Neverwinter game, but I like to make our own stuff.
Yeah.
Fun.
Steve mentioned enclaves. Forgotten Realms did that. They had places in certain cities where when you were inside the enclave, you were subject to their law, not local law, and you were essentially on their soil. They would basically be things like that, where again, people fear them. So you would have to have a really good reason to go in there, because they're not like a normal like church where they're like, we take anybody. They're like, no, if you're just coming in here to stir up trouble, we're gonna kick your ass and throw you out. Like
pretty much.
This is not like a place where anybody goes.
Right. And I think it's important that by doing this, you're taking a big risk, because you have to trust your players if they play a Dragonborn.
Yeah.
So it might be smart to make it so that they have to be indoctrinated, and meaning an adventuring Dragonborn has a 1% chance of being part of this movement, because they wouldn't be doing the work that the Dragonborn are doing. Meaning I would not want a player in my game to be like, do as I say, because the law says. So the thing is that the adventuring Dragonborn are not looking for dragon bones. They're not there doing their duty, paying their tithes,
because the important
doing the rituals. So you don't get to do that.
Yeah. Those dragons, like they are like monks, those Dragonborn.
Yes.
They like live it. It's not like, oh, well, it's my off day, but you still have to do what I say.
Right. No.
Like, no, you don't have an off day.
No.
Like, get out of here.
And to me, Dragonborn who do not follow the tenets are more hated than the average person.
Yeah.
It's like, you are a traitor.
Yeah.
And so if Gaharl clanless is just like, hey, walking through, and all of a sudden this troop of Dragonborn come around and you're not wearing the garb, or you got your whatever, they'd be like, come with us. Exactly. If you're talking capture and
taking you
punishment, hey, come back with us. I don't know. To me, this put together a lot of pieces that I didn't even consider, but that makes Central Dragongrin click.
Yeah.
Why are dragons important? What's going on? The Dragonborn are now this kind of feared army. But I like that they don't work for the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not the stormtroopers. They're like, no, we work for us. We work for the dragon gods.
Yeah.
Like,
where was this question? Oh, Gabe now asks, do non-dragonborn worship dragons? It seems like they would. They would represent one of the. Seems like they would represent one of few hopes to defeat the dismembered lord. Yes. So I would say that some people would. You know, like you were saying earlier, some people do agree with what they do.
Yeah.
And some people would be enslaved and more or less forced to. But it's not like really an open religion that's like, oh, if we want to just overthrow the dismembered lord, we need to follow these guys. Because it's not like the Dragonborn are, they're not like, their main goal is not overthrowing the dismembered lord.
No, not at all.
So the idea is sort of, and maybe people might hope that, you know, oh, if we get the dragons, but it's not like, I mean, that's not what the Dragonborn are doing. And the dismembered lord knows that, and other people know that. So while the dragons would be one of the things he would fear for that reason, I wouldn't say that that would be a popular thing that people say or do.
Right. And Prue says, factions and politics within the Dragonborn community could be gently sparked by him and kept an eye on so he could feel safe in assuming that he could take them down if they stopped being useful. So again, having his spies, his little fingers, his Dragonborn little talons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good stuff here. So we have about another hour. I think we're making great strides. Do you want to do something else, or do you want to jump to the next topic?
Yeah, let's keep like hitting these broad strokes up. What's another topic you want to?
So I think so we talked about Halfkin, which was a big one. That kind of settles in the Dragonborn, which is another big one. We talked about the oceans and how bleak storms are frequent, but they're not always, which is another big one. Is there anything else that you were like, hey, this is kind of important?
No, not really. Like that was in my mind. I mean, eventually, basically, we're gonna get into regions, so I'm avoiding those. So I would say it'd probably be another wonder. You know, maybe we talked about the Druid path. What did you call that?
Oh, the Old Veil.
The Old Veil, or you know, one of those. While you look for something.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna just open up the.
So Josh says, I think the dismembered lord would view dragon corpses as a reminder of the power of the Titans. So if I'm not mistaken, so there are Titans and there are Primordials.
Yes.
The Primordials made the dragons.
Yes.
The Titans made the Typhons.
Yes, which is the opposite of a dragon.
They were the sort of the answer to the dragons. The Primordials created dragons, and so the idea is it would be more, you're basically on the right track, but as sort of a pedantic thing, it would actually remind him of the Primordials more because they created the dragons.
Right.
So somebody said Old Veil. Did you say Old Veil?
Yes. So like.
Yeah, I don't know what. Basically, yeah, that is where the Druids' power comes from. I don't know much about it except for that it's called the Old Veil, and that's where Druid's power comes from.
So, and the idea is that
so somebody asked,
Josh Schwartz says, like stereotypical strider. I see what he did there. He says making great strides or stereotypical strides.
Hey. So Harry asks, what about sentient, non-playable races like giants, goblins, etc.? Most of the races that exist in D&D 5th edition would exist in Dragongrin. There are a few notable exceptions, like any that have a reserved name, like Illithid. We have something like them, but you can't use Illithid, you can't use Beholder.
Yeah, you can't use the names, so we had to come up with other stuff.
So that means that some of those may be included as something else or maybe nixed entirely, but beyond that, like there are goblins and orcs and a lot of other things, but currently I guess we don't really have a list of like, well, no, these definitely aren't, or these definitely are, or something like that.
No, that makes sense. So what you're looking at made it, I guess he's saying his point was that the dragons are dead. So the Titans were powerful enough and smart enough to kill them all.
Gotcha. So yeah, totally. So that was my bad. Yeah.
In fact, in this moment, I'll never remember this in 100 years, but in this moment, I like to think it's almost like he used the dragon as his emblem, almost as a backhanded compliment to the Titans, more like, hey, they're all dead.
Yeah. Rather
than, oh, I worship them.
Exactly. So Game Nub, we do have some art of Typhons. Somebody said that Tim said he's going to post it. That'll happen eventually.
I did. What happened was that I mentioned I was going to post it, and here's exactly what happened. It was like a Friday. I was getting ready to post it, and then someone went live in the group, and I wanted to watch the stream, and then I had to go, and I never did it again. Like the thought left me. Yeah. I got distracted and never made the post.
So what are we talking about?
Typhons. Oh, so okay.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about? What is the next thing you want to talk about?
Oh, gotcha. Watch Alan's Wednesday game. A Druid of the Old Vale makes an appearance. So that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is we talked about races, we talked about backgrounds, you know, and magic comes from the Bleak and all this other stuff. This is a big, big, big can of worms. I don't know if we want to do this, but I just saw the doc. Do we want to save deities for another one?
I think the deities is one that we need to work on and then bring. I don't think
okay, because I have
fresh on like.
I agree because there's nothing in there.
That I'm like,
is literally empty. Because
maybe
cosmology
we can do that, but
is like cosmology and deities are fun, but just like right now in this stream, what does it matter exactly where we are in relation to the Earth? Like it matters. It's important for adventuring, but it's usually the last thing I do because I'm usually an inside-out world builder.
Yeah, so we're not going to worry about that right now.
For now.
That is just like you said, it's a can of worms, and we need to really write that. That's going to be, that may not make it to a stream.
I have a question for you that I don't know how to do. Well, let's talk about, I want to talk about the calendar.
So it's funny because all of those are viewable by me except for the life ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one are you in?
Well, I'm just in. I just clicked to the folder that the one you sent me was in.
No, you didn't. It's totally different. It's on Tabletop Terrors drive.
Oh yeah, what I'm saying.
When stuff's done, I move it over.
Okay, yeah. What
You're
I'm
in
saying
the AdTab drive.
I clicked the folder that when you sent me a link to a doc, and I clicked go back to that to any document. If you click that folder, it brings you to the folder it's in. That's the folder that the one you sent me is in. So if there are two versions of these documents, we gotta figure that out. Not important.
There are two versions of them. That's from forever ago.
But that's the one
July 2016. Oh, I sent you the wrong one.
I know. So that's
how long ago did I send that to you?
Just today.
Oh, because it's a playtest, so it was officially in the AdTab folder.
Okay, I'm just letting you know.
No, all the brainstorming.
So if I'm like, yeah, I wrote a bunch of stuff, and you're like,
no.
So, not important. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna
calendar.
Okay. Well, don't you need this?
Calendaria. No, I just look at yours.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the Dragongrin calendar. All right. So here's YouTube begs me to use YouTube Red every day. You want to try YouTube Red? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can watch ads. Anyway.
I can watch ads.
So,
like, you don't want to give us money? And you're like, no, I'll give you fake money.
I don't like learning too much homework for a game. So if the DM sends me something like, hey, here's the calendar for my world. If you can just know this, I'll be like, no, I won't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the Dragongrin calendar framework. What?
A few things, but so basically, Josh made a joke. He said, where'd it go? Jeez, it disappeared. Oh, special attack, Typhoon. But someone else, Harry, I didn't know what he was asking, so he clarified. He said, I meant more like, are there any non-playable character factions like Fey Woods or lands ruled by goblins and stuff like that? So,
oh, sure, yeah.
I think so. We're not, one of the things we need to flesh out in this book is all of the regions and exactly what lives where.
And I think that'll be a region by region thing.
So I would say for sure there are like places where I'm like, no, that's where the goblins live. You know, that's where. So it absolutely.
Totally.
Sorry.
In fact, I think one of the things we'll have to do at some point is flip through the monster manual and go, all right, where do these live mostly?
Yeah, exactly.
And just do that. Just like,
so that it's
where are the rock shots? Yeah. Probably Orazio, South America style, maybe some in Jahar. All right, cool. And just kind of write that stuff down as a guide so that the players can use it. Even if there's a quick list of monsters. Yeah, anyway.
But you were saying, all right, so you don't like learning stuff, but
so
make people learn the calendar.
What if you, yes. So there's two things that I wanted to do in Dragongrin. One of them is
run adventures.
Yes. Two is write books about running adventures. No. The first thing is that, to me, is this realistic? No, but you can figure it out from any point in real life in the game. So there's no actual Gregorian calendar. Literally, because Grigori doesn't exist in Dragongrin. There are 7 days in every week, theoretically. There are 4 weeks in every month. Meaning, this is not law. I'm saying, 7 days in every week, 4 weeks in every month. So we're not doing this month has 5 weeks. I'm not interested in real life science and the rotation of the sun. It's a magical world. Consider this me waving my hand. Do you know why? Because it's way easier if I'm figuring out, I'm like, all right, so that.
Because you want to have a calendar, but you don't want to have something that people have to learn. So you're like, hey,
exactly.
We're going to hand wave it to make it simple, but still make it thematic and cool.
Yes, because a lot of people don't know the real calendar.
Yeah.
So why would you want to? Anyway, so we're not worried about leap years. We're not worried about time drift, time changes, none of that stuff. So
there is an atomic clock, but it's broken.
It is. It's a Titan clock and a Titan clock. All right, so here are the days of the week. They are not named Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday as of now. But what if they sound like that? And so far we play tested this and there was a really good response to it because it was easy to memorize. But what I'm stuck with are the months. So that's what I need help with. But anyway, it's Moon's Day, Tool's Day, Wands Day. Why are you laughing? Is it funny when I say it out loud? Is it?
Because it sounds like you just don't know the days of the week.
Hey, so you're here for this job interview, and you did say that you're not from America originally. Where did you say you're from? Oh, I'm from Dragongrin. Oh, okay. That's great. And you're legal to work here in the United States? Yes, I am. Okay, well, if you were to get the position, what days would you be available? I mean,
Moon's Day, Tools Day, Wands Day, Thrones Day, Fires Day, Swords Day, Saints Day, you know. All of the days.
You know,
right?
Moon's Day, Tools Day, Wands Day, Thrones Day, Fires Day, Swords Day, Saints Day.
I think it's a really clever idea, but it was hilarious.
I have to admit that when I was saying them out loud, I thought, this sounds really funny, but I'm going to pretend like it doesn't and ask him why he's laughing.
Oh, geez.
Moon's Day, Tools Day. Doesn't not sound like that now. Listen, I'm sorry, but that's going to be in the book. And you know what? If it's like Blizzard style joke forever,
that's fine.
That's fine with me.
Because I think it's cool to have a name of the day. Like, as we talked about, generally you lean on what people know. Like you're not like, well, I want everything in my setting to be unique, so there's going to be a unique months, days. We're not even going to use months, days, and years. We're going to call them something. I'm like, listen,
dude, I don't know how
to happen.
I'll just avoid it when
I'll just say,
be here next
Monday.
In a fortnight. In 2 time increments.
In 2 tools days from now.
Well, and then a colloquialism would be, so for instance, if someone's like, so you would dare have a festival on Swords Day? It's like, I will see you next Swords.
So just to answer a real quick question, Josh says, how often do the days of the week even come up? Not often. So that's why this is beautiful, because
exactly,
it's often enough that it adds a little twist of lore.
Just a bit.
When you can call it Fires Day, but it's enough that
session name. That's so cool. First Fires Day.
But this is another one of those things where if someone's like, hey, we're just going to use, I'll see you on Monday.
Dude, I was going to say, let me chicken and egg you, though. Part of the reason why it doesn't come up is because we don't want to say Monday in the game, and we don't know what to call it.
That's true.
A little bit. Because, like, there are times where it's like, oh, we'll see you at the end of the next, by the end of the next harvest moon. And you're like, how many months is that? You're like,
when is that?
Just check the hourglass. Do we use sundials? I'm not properly familiar with
this. Is like, this is like heavily optional, but I think it's that beautiful little thing that for me, when I watch sessions and people use it, it will make me happy. Like I'll use it like, oh, it's so cool. It's just that little twist of lore that makes it like, that's in Dragongrin.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. To me, the 4 seasons, instead of saying winter, summer, spring, fall, you could do that. But I just thought something like frost, blossoms, burning, and reaping.
Perfect. I love it.
That's it. Now,
here's the other thing. These things get better as they're used.
It gets way worse.
It
gets better as they're used, meaning and that's a
like as people use it, and like as you kind of get the idea, you're like reaping. Dude, that's fall. Like come on,
fall.
That's
burning. It's summer or Devil's Night in the movie The Crow. Frost. Like what is that? It's winter. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be like you can pick it up from anywhere. What's Saints Day? I think that's a real holiday.
It is, but no, All Saints Day. No.
What is Wands Day? People get it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You immediately get it, and that's what I was going for, and that's what we were going for. Is like
that's the important part. But so Alexia mentioned it reminds her of when she was skipping time in Skyrim, and that's a good example because there are days and months in Skyrim, and I always look at it and I'm like, I don't know what day, or it doesn't matter. It totally doesn't matter.
Prooper says you are so cute when your inner siblings come out.
I didn't know what that meant.
Oh,
this was way earlier.
Jim says Dragongrin equals Brooklyn. For my job interview.
I was like, I miss it. Oh, I got you. Yes.
So yeah, I could work on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It does sound like I'm talking like this. Wednesday. Fire's Day.
Okay, so months, not months.
That's it. I'm done.
Seasons.
I'm tapped out. No, seasons are there. Days are there. Let me wrap your head around this.
Well, I already know what the months are. We're telling them.
Yeah, but does this work?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you liked it or not.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool, clever thing. And again, it will come up so rarely that it won't matter. And it will come up, it'll be used just enough that it's like, it fits. We're not saying you need to use this or this is important for Dragongrin.
People are like, just say it. What is he talking about? So early frost, full frost, late frost was the first 3 months of the year. Then early blossoms, full blossoms, late blossoms. Those are the second 3 months of the year. So the year is broken up in quarters. Early burning, full burning, late burning.
And I wouldn't even
reaping,
like
full reaping, late reaping.
We call those months so that you understand, but in my mind, people would just be like, it's the beginning of frost, so it's early frost.
Right.
Like it's utilitarian. People are like, hey, when are you gonna be here? I won't be there until burning, no question. And I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna be there until it's hot out.
Here's the thing. That's the thing. And that sounds like a cool thing to say when you're writing a letter to somebody and say, like, cousin, I will not be able to join you until late frost.
Exactly.
I think it's cool, but I thought you didn't like it for some reason. Did I make that up?
No, I might have. I might have really thought it was stupid at one point, but
I like it. It's simple. Do you know why? Because you can just everything is early, full, and late.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh, what is it? Summer? Oh, so it's early summer. You don't have to know.
And that's the thing is it's cool to have a world that has its own months and days, but because it's made for role-playing games where I don't want, like you said, you started out with that. I don't want people to have to learn it, so that as the GM, I'm really into Dragongrin, and I'm like, so it's on this day and this month.
Right.
And as a player, you're like, but can you give me that in real? Like if it matters, like you said, you made a few jokes, like Fortnite, the Harvest Moon. I'm like, can you just tell me how many days in real life is that?
No, it's true. And in Lewis Conroy, before we had said the names, he said, I think the month's names should allude to the time of year, i.e. winter months names would use words associated with cold and dark, but summer names use words associated with hot and day. I love that. The reason why I like this idea and this calendar is because a new player can be a part of the world without a memorization of anything. It's kind of like, oh, I just say early, late, or full. I could just make up, so I'm role-playing. I don't want to talk about something that happened last year. And I just can say, in full blossoms last year, there was a festival. And I don't need to know exactly when it is, but everyone kind of knows.
Exactly. And I think that's the other important thing is I don't think people are like, they're not like marking the days off the calendar. They're like, no, this is when this happens. Harry says, sounds good, but I won't be there till late frost. That's the correct spelling. So no, it would just be late frost. It's called, basically the season is frost. And if it's early frost.
He's saying like late winter. I won't be there early summer, but that's the thing is that we're replacing it. You wouldn't use that terminology.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
he's saying like, like early summer. It's like, but that's it.
It's called late frost, but it's just late frost.
But what is early summer? So if he's saying, I get what you're saying. Like, well, what if you were going to be somewhere at the beginning of the summer, would you say early burning? And it's like, no, you just say I'd be there early burning.
You could also say first day of burning. The important thing is, in my mind, it's relative. So it's not like burning starts on this day. It's like, no, burning starts when it gets hot out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Burning starts when the this particular crop starts to die after blossoms,
Not to get into particulars, but what establishes the change from late burning to early reaping? I'm assuming it would just be dictated by moons, just so there is an anchor.
So, like I said,
Are you smart enough to understand that question?
Yeah, basically he's saying how is everybody on the same page? How do people know when it's like, oh, this is early blossoms, this is full blossoms?
I kind of like that not everybody's on the exact same
That's
page.
what I mean. In my mind, especially, like, there isn't a written numbered calendar for all the days. I mean, whether
In more established places like Grin, oh, that's it. Oh, buddy. That's what it should be.
What should it be?
This is the Grinian calendar.
Yeah.
Well, I don't follow the Grinian calendar. This is the dismembered Lord put this in place to organize everyone under the same, so that you could be in a place in a time. So more civilized places stick to this as best as they can, but not everywhere.
But in my mind, a calendar comes so early in civilization that it would have been long before that.
I agree, but this is the Grinian one.
So this is brand new.
This is the one that he put in place 20 years ago. There were calendars before. I'm not saying this is the first one, but it's not the Gregorian calendar, it's the Grinian calendar. Because he wouldn't be like, this is the dismembered Lord calendar. This is the one that's like, hey, we're in charge now, we're following this calendar.
In my mind, the calendar wouldn't have changed. This is what it would have been. You know what I mean?
I know, but it's only because I like the word Grinian calendar, and I'm trying to come up with a reason.
Call it the Grinian calendar.
Okay, deal.
Why not? It's a Gregorian calendar. I don't care. Here's the thing. It's just, to me, the important thing is...
No, you're fine. I was just kind of coming up with reasons why it would work.
But for me, I like the idea of it was used that way because in my mind, calendars are most important for people that are growing food. Like, it's super important for, hey, it's early blossoms, so we need to start planting this so that, late burning, we can reap it.
Right. Oh, you're one of those young bucks who doesn't wait. It's like, oh, you think late burning starts in 2 weeks?
So in my mind, it's relative.
Can we also,
because there aren't it's not like it's the 4th of burning. It's like, no, it's early burning. And somebody's like, I think it's more mid burning.
I was just going to say.
Full burning.
I think, just to keep it simple, I think they should be called months. They should be called weeks. They should be called days, and they should be called years.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that, but I think.
Yes, I agree. Because again, you're going on.
I'm not trying. I want to keep it simple and usable for players.
So Steve, it would be by feel, unless Tim's going to say something else that says.
Well, don't forget, there are 7 days in every week, 4 weeks in every month, 12 months in every year. So we did establish that. So there is a benchmark, but for a sense of verisimilitude, more backwoodsy places or places that are under the oppressive rule, maybe they'd be tracking it more. Maybe they'd be tracking it less. Maybe from person to person,
it is literally,
they don't care what day it is because their family's dead. Or maybe for another person, they do care what day it is because they can't wait for the day they get revenge. It's from person to person, but the system in place is no 5-week months, no leap year, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks.
Exactly. So to clarify, Steve said if you needed to get specific, you could just say the 11th week of burning or what have you. Absolutely. In places where they really get track of it, or they need it, like for war plans, they're like, hey, we're all going on this day. They would be able to say if there are 7 days in every week, 4 weeks in every year,
right?
You would be able to say a specific day of the month, and some people would know what you meant.
Sure. And here's the thing: if you really want to look at it, early frost is January, full frost is February. It's 12. We did that on purpose so that you can have a real world analog. Now, here's the way that it would work.
And then it would be 28 days in every month.
7
times 4.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, correct.
That's what I mean. It would always be like, always you could say 1 through 28, yeah.
Always be. So I would say.
But in my mind, it would be more rare to say the day of the month.
Sure, but it's very easy to say. On the 5th of early frost, the Duke of Norwell will be married.
Exactly.
Now, here's the thing that will be in here. It's not necessary, but I like when you get into the, past into the 20s, if you say the second number first. So I think it's cool to say the 5th 20th.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or the,
11th first.
Yes. Smarch is one of the months. Anyway, this is just going to be a good benchmark, but it's not meant to be as detailed and specific as a real world calendar. I think if I did have to answer, I'd say yes, it was probably the moons. Boom. Because there are 3 moons in Arbitron, and it's pretty easy if you know how to do the sailor's framing a shot like director. you could see the 3 moons and say, oh, okay, there are star charts and moon charts, I think.
Yep.
I'm going to put a note in there. It says a benchmark for time is the 3 moons of our benchmark. So that people know, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing, this is our...
John Schwartz says, my thoughts are the calendar is a tool of the ruling class to appeal to the commoners by lowering taxes while reducing the amount of time between taxation intervals by taking away days in a season.
That's awesome.
It is.
That is literally making this your Dragongrin.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. But giving you a framework, you can kind of play with it all you want, and that's what we want people to do.
And then Steve summed it up very perfectly. 7 days in a week, 28 days in a month, 12 months in a year, 48 weeks in a year, 12 weeks in a season. That's about as technical as it ever need get. Exactly, because you can always just say, in the summer, if you're playing in the game, it's hot out.
Exactly.
It's the summer while you're
exactly.
going. But it's a little cooler and simple enough that you could say during, it's a full burning. It's very hot outside, and people get the idea.
Right, and I think the other thing to remember is that it has been brought up. This rarely comes up, but it's cool if you're making a letter to hand out as a prop to your players to put this on.
Or to more commonly thread this in because you know it exists.
Exactly.
Because I don't like saying it's December, so it's cold.
Right.
And it's around Yuletide. You know what I mean? I'm like, no.
Right, and it's cool to have a gnarly tax collector say, you have until next Wednesday to bring me the money. Whatever. It's like, oh, I have a week.
Exactly.
Instead of 7 days from now. It's like, wait, what day is it? I don't know. Anyway, so that's it. That's the Grinian calendar as of now. Harry Pollitt says, from Two Guys Tea and D&D, says Universal Grin Time. The UGT, yeah, everything's on the UGT around here. Let's see. Hey, Jeremy Lily's here. He says, but do Dragongrin pizza places still have to deliver in under 30 minutes before becoming free?
Do you know why Dragongrin is such an awful place? Why? Pizza does not exist. We did it both different.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? And you have to tip 60%, he said. Let's see. Yes, but Dragongrin's so evil, it's a California style with crappy toppings. I'm like, this pizza made with no gluten with spinach on top is worse than no pizza.
With spinach and no sauce and no cheese.
I'm kidding.
All right, what's next?
All right, so we did calendar. Let's see here. Because we got about 30 minutes.
Someone should get on to inventing pizza then. Exactly.
Yeah, dude, that's the jam.
They don't even know what circles are.
We got the regions, we got the wonders. I'm trying to think if there's a wonder that we can knock out that we haven't really talked about. We talked about the Bleak, we talked about the Copper Sun. We just really talked about the Dragon's Grin. The famous and the desolation are going in cosmology. The old veils going in cosmology. Typhons, we have talked about before. I think that we just kind of hit on them as like as deep as we want to go now, which is they were the answer, the technological answer to the dragons, however they were created. I like to think the Typhons, if any are around, they're said to be a default with the Titans.
Yeah.
That's kind of the hand.
They're not running around, yeah.
Nope. Lightfall and the Dismembered Lord. We've kind of talked about all these things.
Yeah.
So there was something I was going to talk to you about, which is one of the customization options that I had. This might be more than a 30-minute conversation, but I think we can whittle it down. We were talking about how far the reach of the Dismembered Lord is. And I was saying, I think there should be a little bit of shadow everywhere because he's smart enough to have eyes everywhere, but it's not a full-on marching through the boots, like,
yeah. In my mind, he knows what's going on and he has people in high political positions, but the people don't realize, like, oh, that's the Dismembered Lord's guy. It's just like, no, he's like subtly shifting those things that politicians do.
Policies?
Sort of, but there's another word. But policies.
Politicians.
Basically like that, where he does know what's going on and he gets reports, but it's not like occupation.
No, I agree.
Aren't like in fact, most people believe that he doesn't have a reach anywhere. But he's like, no, but I know what's going on. I've got spies,
I think that's
people.
More dangerous.
Exactly.
Totally.
Because they're like, no, we're safe.
So Grin is fairly large, and we can decide, I think this would be in Central Dragongrin.
Mm-hmm.
We had this, and we had this conversation a long time ago where it's like,
Richard Giro says to make him like the Shadow Broker. There's a thing called Lair of the Shadow Broker. I don't know what it is. So maybe he's like the Shadow Broker.
I'll check it out, definitely. So in central Dragongrin, the major landmass, which is mostly where you're going to see like Dismembered Lord's troops and oppression and all that stuff, everything's affected by this, but this is the place where it happens. Similarly to how the United States was as the Second World War was happening before we were involved, there's always the danger that a force could strike.
Yeah, like there's that looming danger of like, hey, somebody might invade here.
Sure, and people are always trying to make power plays and things like that. So to me, and this was just a name that I kind of threw out there, but we talked about having kind of lords that the Dismembered Lord puts in place to rule places so that it's like specifically not political intrigue.
Yeah, yeah.
But like
barons of places in Grim. He's not like, I rule everywhere.
Exactly. I call them the Lords of Ash.
I like that. Yeah.
So here is how that plays into your Dragongrin. We look at the region template, which, you know what? We haven't done anything like this. I am going to screen share, if that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer a question real quick.
Go for it.
This is not going to be real quick because you're going to weigh in here and it's going to be the whole thing.
Sure.
Alexia says, I love the idea of a bard working their way closer and closer to the Dismembered Lord, trying to destroy him from within. Funny story.
Funny story.
The Dismembered Lord, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
The Dismembered Lord does not allow bards to basically exist. Only the ones that are
within his...
Yeah, his bards. He has bards, and it's like sort of D&D style propaganda machine.
That's exactly what it is. So that's how I think of it. Because
so
you control what songs are sung, what stories are told,
what things are remembered, how things are told. Like, oh, this battle happened.
Exactly.
But what's the story? What is the press saying?
Right. Because it's been 20 years since Lightfall. So if you can do that properly, consistently, the kids who are born now just learn it as the way it is. And that's more dangerous than the ones who remember the way it really was or used to be.
But there's a thing called the Circle of the Silver Page.
Yes.
That is all about documenting the real history.
It's like a secret society of bards that operate outside of the power of the Dismembered Lord, who are archaeologists of
the real history.
Lore.
In different ways.
Yes.
So bards are kind of a big deal in Dragongrin.
Yes.
In general. You know, like
and
for that. Like you in the same way that there aren't many adventurers in general in Central Dragongrin, because it's kind of like nobody likes them and you're generally looked down upon.
Right.
There are even fewer bards because like you are not allowed in town if you are playing songs that are not the songs of the Dismembered.
Exactly. That's like
call the police on you. Like sometimes
crucified territory.
Like sometimes people are like, oh, okay, listen, you shouldn't be adventuring, but if guards don't come in, you can drink here, it's fine. You can stay here, still make any ruckus. If you got a loot on your back and you're not part of the Dismembered Lord's like propaganda machine,
then you're in trouble.
You're gonna get kicked out, you're gonna get crucified, and they're gonna make a call to head office and like, hey, listen, we got a guy.
We got a crux
give
situation
us a stipend because we killed this
right. We found a bard for you. So I'm going to screen share. We have not shared this. So for all of you who have stuck with us for 3 hours, for 3 hours, you get, and this is the same thing. We always
Shadow Broker is Mass Effect. I forgot. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so we always joke around that Vash the Stampede is the code word. Like if you stick around this long, like, oh, okay.
Love and a peace. So
love and a peace. So I think we need to do a new one so that people can't just put that Vash Stampede. So what's the code word for the people that stuck to this far who are watching this that they can comment on the YouTube video?
You know what it is?
What is it?
I kill. My shirt says I kill. This guy. This is not a thing from anything. This was a thing that an artist made.
This is just a thing from a thing?
In my mind, it is an assassin on vacation. But he brings his guns and he says I kill. And his speech for it will have a mouth. I mean, just love it.
It is cool. So it has to be I kill. I-K-E-E-L.
I kill.
So that's the code word.
That's how he says it.
Code word is I kill. So I'm going to screen share. And for the first time, we're going to share this template. And let's do this. First, you're going to see our faces.
They're going to see all the secret stuff that we're hiding from.
Secret collect. All right. if this is working, is it working? Can you see it from yours?
I don't watch our streams.
Neither. It's 12 seconds behind, so I gotta wait 12 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's working.
All right. So this is the region template. This is the proposed region template for the Dead Man's Guide to Dragongrin. So you got your region name, a one-line description, you know, a quote, the overview, the region details. Then it jumps into something beautiful, something deadly, something sickening, and something secret, which will be different for each region.
Now, we didn't talk all about this.
We did, and I'm going to get to what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
So as we scroll through, but we didn't show it. Yeah, right. So we scroll through all of this stuff, and as you get down here, regional threats and conflicts. There are minor threats, growing threats, major threats, and then regional adversaries, foils, henchmen, minor villains, etc. Right? So there's this section where it's the conflicts of the region. So I thought it would be cool, and we're going to stop sharing for a bit here because I want to show you something else. I think it would be really, really cool. Sorry, I read a comment. The Lords of Ash, when placed in a region, you can place them in a region, and essentially that all of that stuff changes to what theirs is. So to keep it super simple, if I have the Lord of Ash who's called the Grief Father, whatever, from here, and I'll show you the template, this means that everyone's Dragongrin can truly, truly, truly be different, because you take everything about the region and then you plug in your Lords of Ash, and you can say, okay, and I'll pull up the, it's a boilerplate one. Do you see it?
No, I didn't see it on there at all.
It's somewhere. There it is. Okay. So what it would be is their minor threats that they bring, their growing threats, and their major threats. So all you do is you just swap out that section of the region to what's important to them.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say swap out. These would just be other things that could happen, because other things would still exist.
Sure.
Basically, the important thing I wanted to stress is,
I say swap out because
but what I'm saying
using
is,
the wrong
even
phrase.
I was a little confused by what you were talking about, and I'm looking at what you're saying. Like Tim said, in each region, there are the regional threats and conflicts.
Well, that's why I showed it.
I'm aware, but I'm recapping because I got confused halfway through. In each section, there are regional threats and conflicts, basically little plot hooks and things that you can use to talk about. But in the Lords of Ash, each one, however many there are, I think you have an idea of how many there are, right?
I put 6, maybe 6 or 7.
However many Lords of Ash there are, each one comes with its own specific minor threats, growing threats, and major threats that you could use instead.
Exactly.
So the idea is you have other things that you can be more thematic that are not just the region. It's like there are regional threats, but there are regional threats because of this Lord of Ash.
Right. So you can swap them out or combine them, but essentially it's like, all right, I just put Lord of Ash Varkas, blurb, quick cool story of history and style and description, like a stat block of lore without actual stats. And then it's like the regional threats that he brings because of him and his armies, it's like he commands a legion of gnolls. Yeah. So now if you have Lord of Ash Varkas, when you turn to this page in the book, there'll be the 7 Lords of Ash. And it'll show you, like, for instance, it'll be like, you know, in this little blurb stat here, it would be he resides in Innis. And then you change that so that the Lord of Ash Varkas would typically reside in Innis, because that's where the Dismembered Lord has him placed. But he would bring these minor threats because he's actually looking for, he collects weird things like Uldane trinkets.
Exactly.
So that's the minor threats. The growing threats are his generals are at unrest, and there's a Gnoll civil war coming. And then major threats would be, like he is racist against elves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. I think that'd be cool, because then everybody's Dragongrin can be totally different, because it's like, okay, you have the region, you have the book, here's all the lore. Oh, but Uranus has the Devourer as the Lord of Ash over it.
Exactly.
Oh, crazy. So what does that mean? And then I can look and know the lore immediately. Oh, it's not Gnolls, it's whatever.
Again, just like we were talking earlier, the idea is whether you put the Lord of Ash in a region, or if you just want a cool plot hook for a big bad evil guy in your world, you can look through the Lords of Ash section, find one, keep the name and do the regional threat or the growing threat, or change the name and just basically use these like plot hooks. Because Jeremy said kind of like lair actions, not really like lair actions for the story. So
Yeah, like
it's
plot
not
hook lair actions.
So a regional threat would be like a faction that's in this region. You know, that wouldn't be like you could transplant it somewhere else, but the idea is that's here. But the lair or these Lords of Ash ones would be like basically other plot hooks that are there because they are, like you said,
exactly. They follow you.
Artifact.
They follow them around. So it's like just cool flavor things of people, including myself, like to stat things out and customize it. What combinations are you using?
Yeah.
I think it'll be really cool that when you run your Dragongrin, you might have this dude in Jahar.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if his whole thing is he loves to rob graves, well, that's going to be way different if he's in Uldain because there's dragon graves.
Exactly.
So that's immediately boom.
It is dependent still on the lore of the place you put them. If you put them in your world and there's a specific grave.
Then you put them in Jahar and it's these black pyramids.
Yeah.
Super different campaign elements. So it's like, I think, and of course, like I said, we will choose where they are in our Dragongrin.
Yeah.
To kind of give them like, hey, but the way that it's laid out, you can very easily just swap them.
Exactly. So we have a few things. First, John Schwartz says, regarding the Dismembered Lord on the idea of bardic propaganda, is the title Dismembered Lord a treasonous slander? And if so, what are the bard propagandaists tell him or call him? No, the Dismembered Lord is a name that, as far as I know, he owns. Like he is.
I feel the same way.
A fearful thing. That's what everyone calls him. There are things that people might call him that are treasonous slanders, but the Dismembered Lord is what he is. So
yeah, I feel like he owns it. That's the best way to put it.
Harry asks, I'm imagining a Lord of Ash that's a blood red hobgoblin's warlord. To me, the Lords of Ash are very much like evil embodied in my mind.
Sure.
Like in general,
different kinds of evil embodied.
But like they're not like this is a human that is bad. It's like, no, this guy is like, I imagine like Warhammer Fantasy gods to some degree, not quite that crazy. But like, no, like you will recognize him when you see him. He's not a dragonborn with a scar on his eye. He's like a crazy, like he's a blood red hobgoblin.
These are challenge rating 15 creatures. These are like the mini bosses. You fight all 8 of them before you go in to fight the Dismembered Lord.
But that brings up another good point. These, in my mind, when you originally mentioned the Lords of Ash, they were residing over regions of Dragongrin. But now you're saying they would be in regions. So in my mind, that means that they wouldn't be in power in those regions. They would just be in those regions.
To me, they would be in power in those regions as much as you can be if you move in with a force and you're okay to be there and no one can tell you to leave. So what I'm saying is not all of Dragongrin, just Central Dragongrin. Sphere.
Oh, I see. Sphere, Innis.
Grin, Innis, Mogtarok, and Uldain. Like,
okay,
basically all around there. And here's the thing.
Sense, yeah.
We haven't really talked about this, but the way I look at it, seriously though, no, the way that I look at it, it is not just like, this is my office, you can run for it next year. It's like, no, if someone kills you, they can be the Lord of Ash. If they're strong enough.
Well, because like you said, the Lord of Ash is the name that people give them or what they're called, but it's not, like you said, it's not an office. It's like, no, I have a big enough power behind me that I am a Lord of Ash.
I feel like the Dismembered Lord
around and we
would have the people that he puts in place. That there would be a Council of Ash.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is like, it's not like
you are
a Lord of Ash isn't like something like, hey, there's a campaign coming up, you gotta get, it's like, no, you have an army. That's why you're a Lord of Ash.
Right.
The Dismembered Lord backs you.
Right, and it's like he sends this many War Makers, this many Marrow, and you can do your own thing.
Exactly.
And I think there would be weird rules. Like, I would love it if it was like trial by combat to solve stuff.
Yeah.
So 2 Lords of Ash have to fight it out if they can't solve things. I also like, I'm just thinking of this, you can kind of do whatever you want, but if you get caught, there's punishments.
You mean as Lord of Ash?
Lords of Ash to another Lord of Ash. Like,
oh, gotcha. Okay.
You can do whatever you want. So, but if it's proven and you get caught, you get punished. If you're stupid enough to get caught.
Like that. What's like that?
But if you don't get caught, then there's no
exactly like you can do what like exactly like you said
like nobody
if they
tells
are in your way or it's like
it's not like oh no is that what it is? No. But it's not like well he did this and so I'm pressing charges. It's like you you show like irrefutable evidence of like he did this, so I challenge him.
You know what it reminds me of?
Something.
The gift game. It's like that where like, no. If somebody shows weakness, you can kill and usurp them, and it's like, hey, you did a good thing. But if you go and you're like, hey, so-and-so is doing this, you're like, no, you're the one showing weakness. That's you showing weakness, saying so-and-so.
That's kind of a good way to put it. And so anyway, and it's something to play with. And like, honestly, in my head, you know how we were imagining the cartoon Dragongrin before? Where you get that immediate stock photo that pops in your head that is a summation of your experiences in cartoons you've watched. I'm imagining this rogues gallery of like, I think 7 is a cool number. Of just 7
total. I love that it was 6 and one got added. I'm like, it's gonna be 8 tomorrow.
No, it's too many. I think it should be an odd number.
But 8's too many.
I think it should be an odd number.
Okay, but you were in the rogues gallery.
Well, I just imagine this rogues gallery of like bad guys from some sort of video, like you said, you said Warhammer, but I'm thinking like, what is it called? Chaos in the Old World?
Yeah, that's Warhammer Fantasy.
Not that crazy, but like
that's Warhammer Fantasy. That's what I was talking about.
They're not like, but
exactly, but they are like, no, that guy is very like, he has a name that people know, and you know what he looks like.
Do you know what? This is not. I'm gonna get you halfway there, and you gotta go the way yourself. The same differences where it's like this archetypical, proto-powerful, interesting look as Overwatch characters, but then evil. These are where each one is so specifically distinct, and you're like,
that's what I mean. Like,
I can clearly see that you are a tech-using, jumping gorilla.
Exactly. Like you're a little bit. I wouldn't even say on the nose, but it's a little bit like. It's a little on the nose, but in such a way that is not cheesy, and that's where we will have to like draw that line. But that's the idea. Is like, no. Like I said, it's not some bad-looking dude. It's like, whoa, like. That is not even a race that exists.
Yeah, go for like 4 horsemen on it, and then dial it up to where it's 7 horsemen.
Basically like that, where they're like, because in the same way, like the Dismembered Lord, there would be stories that follow them. You know, they would be crazy.
Exactly.
But the stories about them would be even more outlandish. Josh says, feel like Ash would be the name they were called by the populace. The Dismembered Lord would have a more pleasant name, since he calls Lightfall a dawn of truth. I think to some degree he owns how terrible things are.
Yep.
So they're the Lords of Ash because he says they are, not necessarily because people say they are.
I love the Council of Ash as well.
Yeah.
Like
so
all of them.
I see exactly where you're coming from, Josh. Like, but in general, he usually owns stuff. In the case of Lightfall, it's called the Dawn of Truth, but some people call it Lightfall. That one is a little backwards, like we may have said.
The reason why I think that one's backwards is because the one thing I think the Dismembered Lord truly believes is that he's the best thing for the realm. And to call it Lightfall, he loves it when other people call it Lightfall. But to him, he's like, but that's when I took over. That's when this all began. That's when the real deal happened.
That's what I mean. The first name it had was the Dawn of Truth. And then people called it Lightfall.
They started calling it, yes. And to say what you have said, but just in a slightly different way, the Dismembered Lord's on the level.
Yeah.
I know some people didn't like this, but like I said, I don't think he wears spiky evil armor everywhere to bed. Like, he puts it on because he understands that it is a uniform of fear and malice. And when people see this larger than life power, he has control over them through fear.
Exactly.
He's not stupid. He gets it.
The Lords of Ash are the way they are, and because he knows that some guy is just not the same.
No.
He picks or curates or creates, who knows, the worst possible thing in that sense, because he knows that it keeps people under his thumb.
Yes.
People are not like, I'm not afraid of that guy. It's like, dude, that guy's literally going to come to town and eat your kids.
Exactly.
Like, don't mess with him.
Demi-Lich Vogel Dracus, Lord of Greed. Frank from HR.
Yeah, you're like, no, it is. Again, I don't want to say over the top, but for how grounded we generally talk about Dragongrin, this is one thing where it's like, no, he owns the fact that he is evil.
Because think about how...
And they probably, in my mind, they probably realize that it's a little over the top. But that's what they are. I'm like, no, it's over the top, but I like, people's entrails taste good. That's why I eat them.
And dude, well, that's the other thing, dude. Frank from HR, though, be handing out them demerits. So be careful because you will not get all your PTO. No. But what I was going to say is, in the Dragongrin world, it's not like extra, extra, get your newspaper. It's like it's legends and tales and folklore and keeping people afraid and perpetually questioning things and all this. You want something that's larger than life, because if these things aren't demigods, people will believe they are. And who would rise against that? Just the fear alone, like what you're saying. It's like, there's no like on CNN, wires were found on the forbidden Lord of Ash. He's a phony.
Exactly.
News at 11, Susan.
So we are just about wrapping up here.
2 minute warning.
You mentioned an Ash Lord's name earlier. But it was like
Lord Ash Vargas.
No, there was one you said and did not write down. It's like Grief or something.
Oh, didn't I say Morgul Dracus?
No, you
the lich from
way earlier. You said a cool one, and I thought, oh, definitely that's written down. And then you went to this doc, and I was like, oh, shit.
You sure I didn't say Lord of Ash Vargas?
Yes, I'm positive. It's like, that's a cool one.
Oh.
Because in my mind, it gave it more of the, and this will have to enjoy it. In my mind, it gave it more of the sound. Because in my mind, it sounds more like an office that someone can hold. In that, if the one dies, that doesn't mean it just goes away.
It's like no, I'm the new Grief Father. I
think that's super cool. If you had, and it doesn't have to be.
Let's put it in here.
It doesn't have to be like this guy is the father of grief. You know what I mean? It's just like no cool names that do mean something.
But it should be the Joker style. There's not an official origin because they're all different and they start to perpetuate.
But I guess what I'm saying
it is to a degree in office, because it's like if I am the Grief Father,
like you said, like the four horsemen,
all that stuff.
Like there is a war horseman. You know what I mean? And it's like that horseman could be anyone that they choose, but I don't know they're different. It's the war horse.
You wouldn't gun for the war horseman spot unless you were all about war.
Exactly.
If you were, pestilence fella, you'd go rocking the pestilence.
And
you wouldn't be like,
And Jeremy says, what if the dismembered lord makes them look frightening spectacles evil in order to facilitate their scary image? Exactly what we're saying.
Totally.
That's the idea, is even if there was somebody that he really loved for the position of Grief Father, he wouldn't put Frank from HR in the position of Grief Father because he knows that doesn't have the right gravitas.
Right. And I love the idea. First of all, I wish I could save these comments. I don't think there's a way, right?
No, I think they're just comments.
Because there are so many comments.
Or in the live chat.
In the live chat. Because there are so many awesome, like there was a really, really funny, he said Lords of Summer is an old metal band in Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
That's so funny. Ivan the Terrible and Vlad the Impaler didn't come up with names for themselves that hid the fact of what they did. Exactly. Okay, I'm on your side on that. Exactly. Yeah. You're like, I know this guy impales everybody. His name is the Impaler. So we're not going to fight him because his legend precedes him.
So Harry says, I don't think they should adapt their titles that are given to them. He might mean
adopt.
Well, I think he meant adapt to. Either way, the idea is that I agree. Like I said, the Grief Father is not, he doesn't have a job of doing something with grief. It's just a cool name, and that's the name people gave him because of something he did or does. Right. We're still not sure on that, but
and that's the thing. They'll develop. The concept will develop over time, and it will be, some say many posit, others believe, because that's the kind of thing, the boogeyman kind of stories, there is no definitive answer, because if you ask people in this part of the world, it's all different based on how they were raised. So I think that's about it.
Yeah,
well, what else?
That's about it for timing. Yeah, I think that's
I'm sorry. Today. That's about it for our time today.
Yes.
But let's see. I actually just did a
copied and pasted
some of the chat. I don't know if it'll work, but I just want to go back and read them, because while we're talking, I don't get a chance to read them. And so many really, really good comments that are just, I appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with us for so long. I might have just.
And Josh says, would he force people to change their name?
I might have crashed it. Are we still here? Are you still up? Okay, because this Google Doc just pooped the bed. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't have changed what we're doing. Yeah, we're fine.
It lagged out because of the images. And it says, can't create.
It's just
there's a million of them.
Not important. So would he force people to change their name? So no, but again, I'm not 100% on what the names will be or exactly how it'll work or what theme they'll follow.
That's
but the idea
thing.
is somebody would be the grief father, but when he goes and has dinner, people aren't like, hey, grief father, you know what I mean? They're like, they are a person, you know what I mean? I don't know, we're not sure yet. But
well, and then something else, let's say the grief father gets slain by someone totally new, they can become a Lord of Ash, I would say, and have a totally new name.
Exactly.
Like, this person could become the Grief Eater.
Yeah.
Because they killed the Grief Father. Like, there will be breakout boxes about those kind of ideas.
But generally, in my mind, if for some reason a Lord of Ash had to be replaced, the name wouldn't change because there's already so much reach for the existing name.
Agreed. It's not
like,
about...
no, there's a new Grief Father, but nobody knows that the other one died. Like, that's a cover-up. Like, no, same guy, you know what I mean? They wouldn't advertise, hey, someone killed a Lord of Ash or a Lord of Ash died for some reason. Yeah, so, yeah, I think that's it, basically.
I think we're making progress. So can you see, okay, we'll end with this. Based off of what we're looking at, do you see anything that we need to go over before we start hitting up the regions?
The life sections.
Oh, like money, trade, and commerce.
Specifically money, trade, and commerce, I think is the big one.
All right, we'll talk about that next. Not today, but the next
time. Yeah, next time. Yeah, for sure.
And then I think traveling that should be pretty quick and easy and handled in most of the sections.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, we can jump into regions, I think, but like eventually. But in my mind, money, trade, and commerce, we have to get some ideas solidly between us before we can make decisions about them.
Sure.
But the rest we can do later, basically.
Yeah, no, I'm down with that. And I don't have strong feelings about any of that.
So the one thing that we had talked about previously that I liked was that generally things are very expensive.
Sure.
Like money is like, it's not like, oh, I have a few copper pieces.
Stuff.
It's like, no, stuff costs gold.
Right.
Or
old World of Warcraft.
Food. Yeah, exactly.
Where you're like, what?
You're like, how many? You're like,
I don't know.
now it's 50 gold. How does that even happen?
Dude, oh my God. I had this weird idea that now, like, saying it out loud sounds stupid, but I thought it would be cool if there was a coin
for every day of the week. Wednesday,
no,
Wednesday.
There's basically a coin that's this Dismembered Lord symbol that is essentially like the currency of Central Dragongrin, but it's one coin, and it's essentially like I don't know how to say it. I have it written down somewhere. I don't want to say it like it's a charge meter, like a health meter for the coin. That kind of is what it sounds like, but it's almost like the darker red, the brighter red it glows, the more money.
You're talking Dismembered Lord debit cards, man.
Kinda.
Yeah, like you said, when you say it out loud, it's like,
it sounded so cool, and I was like, it's just one coin that you charge, and then I was like,
because it creates so many complications in, like, the idea currently is that money is backed by gold. Now, we're not going to go over that.
No. Money's backed by gold. Let's leave it that way.
No, that's what I mean.
I'm not trying to
in real life, like, we have currency that is.
I know.
So that's why we skip that step, and people just pay with gold.
That's smart.
In fantasy.
Let's just do that.
So somebody said, does that mean most people just trade? Well, we haven't gone over the sections. We're not sure what it means. I just like the idea that it's like everywhere is impoverished. Nobody's like rich necessarily. There might be some people, but they're probably corrupt politicians. But in the same respect, they have a lot of gold, but when they want to go buy bread, they're still spending a few of those on a really nice loaf of bread. It's not like, I have whatever I want. It's like inflation is terrible. We don't really know, though, because we got to go over that section.
It really pays to dismember. That's what you're looking at says. What about a coin that's made to be dismembered, so it has 12 wedges that can be taken from it?
That is where somebody comes up with the idea for pizza. They're like, dude, what if there was a food that was like these coins?
I think that is probably the best place to end it. So thank you all for tuning in. Tons of people. We have like 30 plus people watching us do this world building. Hopefully it's helpful to you. And remember, I keel if you watch this till the end.
I keel.
Subscribe to our channel. You're going to see this book come to life slowly, week by week. This is really our focus, and this is the most important thing, so we're making videos about this because It's recording it to remember it.
To some degree, yeah. We
It's
haven't
like-
typed a single thing. We talked about a lot of stuff.
But we haven't written any of it, and so it's crazy. But having this on, being able to re-listen to it and go, okay, what did we say? Oh, so anyway, hopefully you enjoy this. Next week we're going to be playing Cold Shadows with Alan Barr. That's going to be a blast.
That is a intrigue/spy style RPG that is on Kickstarter.
Yep.
We did a interview with Alan Barr last week.
Yeah,
About
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Oh yeah, last week.
And you can still back that. It's still cooking right now. And in fact, we're going to be.
It is funded as hell, and
It is
going
so
to the
funded.
stretch goals.
And we're going to be playing the game with a couple of days left in the Kickstarter, so you can see it in action before you make your final decision if you haven't backed it yet. But just thanks for being a part of the channel. And I guess for those of you who stayed with us 3 hours, you're true champions. You're true Tabtarians. But until next time, may your dice roll high.